It's kind of-
And so I'm just like, you know what?
What are they good for?
They mean anything.
And the answer is that they should get this feed up, right? It'd be good if you could. Trash. That's a.
Most people come.
Is it just us?
Probably. Soon.
Rachel, you keep her out?
No. I call the meeting to order. Unless you want to start us out with an invocation.
Oh, yes. Heavenly Father, I just so thank you for this very gift of life, God. I thank you for our township. I thank you for everything being decent and in order, God. I think that you are calling us as trustees and people that watch over the people's money, Father God. And I thank you for the spirit of wisdom and the spirit of counsel and spirit of might to help us through this decision making this night, God. Order our steps. In Jesus' name, we praise you.
Amen.
Join me for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You want to go through a roll call, Tracy? Just want to record who's here since the work session. I'll just record. Next, we have public comments, since it doesn't seem that we have any comments, other than the fact that most of us are residents here. No one wants to make a comment there. We're on to our discussion items. First one is special items for consideration. So I wrote a little bit of a general briefing here, and obviously we have a number of items concerning a few different things. They mostly dive into neat stuff for maintenance, however. So we'll do that, and then we'll go through line by line and discuss anything that anyone wants. So, starts off with Porter Johns, if you want, Nate.
Yeah, so I don't know if you read the letter I have, pretty self-explanatory, also just trying to explain. I think I brought it up before to everybody. It's just the porta johns we have now, they're subpar, they're not the best, they're also not the worst, but I mean, I think it was the beginning of last season, we got delivered. And I stepped inside one, every corner had a gap, just because like it was like warped old plastics, so it's like somebody really wanted me, they could watch you kind of thing, and that's just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I ended up just getting a bunch of quotes, just trying to see what we're dealing with other companies. Because the baseball team that rents our field at Beagle Park, they don't like using the bulk toilet there, so they rent their own porta john, and it's a John's to go. And I went in that thing, and it was like might as well have had a bidet. It was beautiful for a porta john. It was nice. So I was like, let's look into this. So the first quote here, the one that's like a picture scan, that is Great Lakes. That is who we already have. We just wanted maybe like an updated quote. I told them that we were getting quotes too, so I guess it's about as competitive as it can be. The total down there is 50-10.
Is that for the whole?
That's for the season, the whole season. Yeah, it's scanned in from here.
Like.
I think I have the original. Absolutely. Yeah, here's the original. You can see it a lot better, but it's $5,010 for the season, including the yearly one at the transfer station, which is a little high. As you can see, some of the other ones are a little less.
So it's their equipment, right? It's their,
And they serviced it also.
it just seems to me, I mean, I'm just thinking of other businesses that have equipment they leave on site.
Yeah.
If you run into problems with it, it's damaged or destroyed or needs replacement, you just call them and they bring you a new one or a much better one. We had troubles with that.
So we had some vandalism done to the one at Hadley Park. All they did was take it and kind of cleaned it up a little bit and then returned it. And there was just, instead of specific profanity, it was just random. They didn't clean it that well. And like I said, it was at the beginning of the season, so they should give us their best at the beginning.
Yeah, that's nice.
So there's that. But as you can see, there's other quotes here. I did just get a quote today from John's to go also. She was out in the office. And this one says, our standard units for parks are $135 for 28 days. That includes delivery service once weekly and removal when finished. So that's going to be more along the lines of some of the quotes I have in here. So I just thought it'd be something to bring up when it comes to the prices of porta johns. Is there any questions about these quotes or any preferences?
I like Kirk's, I mean, they describe what they're gonna do.
Right. And that was kind of interesting to learn too, how some companies send quotes.
Heavy rental is like, yeah, you know.
Ready Rental was actually really cool. I deal with them a lot because as you can imagine, there's some equipment you can't afford, so I have to rent. But, yeah,
Who was the company that you said that you walked into and it was like a sauna or what?
John's to Go, which is the one I just got the email from. Yeah, which seems to be along the lines of the same price as, I want to say, that's $9.80 a month. That's kind of the same as Great Lakes. It seems like Ready Rental's gonna be like, I don't know if that's monthly either. The Ready Rental quote's not very specific. They just kind of made a line item.
Seasonal.
But based on the other prices, it seems like they're all kind of the same monthly. That seems like what they're doing is charge. Great Lakes is just the seasonal.
So, on the first rate, that 90 a month, what is that actually though? Because it's just gonna be like, that's not,
Right, well, it's because it's 6 units. So I did 6 units because it says standard portable restroom, 140 each. So I just did it multiplied by 6 units,
okay,
and then I just did that times 6 a month.
We don't have any,
But-
we don't have any.
We don't, as of now, at least.
but to compare, I can't just multiply 980 times 12.
Yeah, it's
Is
one
that-
thousand seven60.
Yeah.
Well, it's also not 12 though. That's the thing.
That's what I'm
It's April
asking.
1 It's April 1st to November 1st.
Okay,
Essentially, anyway, that's,
7 months.
Great Lakes have their own schedule that they've been doing for a while.
and then one of them is year round.
Right, that was the Great Lakes one. That was the full year type thing.
Transfer station.
Oh,
has
I'm
the
sorry,
one
yes,
year round.
yes, yep. And that one they said, it's gonna be the same price, so it'd be the 140, or for Kirk's anyway, they were all kind of along the same lines. The price goes up like, I think $10 or $20 depending on the company a month in the winter times, cause they use a different
Oh,
chemical in
gotcha.
so it doesn't freeze. They still service it, and I've told Great Lakes, they don't really need to worry about servicing the transfer station much in the winter, because it doesn't get used much, except for by the attendant. But yeah, still work in progress, trying to figure out, those are preliminary numbers too, those are just the calls I made, so just trying to see what the waters are like kind of thing.
I'm good with it going up a little bit, to get better quality, for
Right.
sure. We can use some of that, numbers a little better and,
Yeah, that's what I'll do too, is
just
kind
kind
of,
It would also be nice once if we hone in on one that we like, then we get a contract and we spell out some issues that we had in the past, but how they will resolve those.
with Great Lakes.
Well, I
Oh,
any of them, but I'm thinking, I'm leaning towards that we're not gonna go back to Great Lakes.
that's kind of my reasoning behind all this.
What I'm saying is, if a contract with somebody else, I would say that contract should have wording in there that deals with the problems we have with Great Lakes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's actually a good idea.
Make sure that it's all written down.
Yeah.
If they fall short on the contract, we say, okay, and maybe there's a clause in there that gets us out of it if we don't get what's reasonable.
I see that. Yeah, there's, yeah. A lot of these companies I found out other than Great Lakes, they're month to month. They don't really do much
Yeah, it's not-
contracts or anything. But yeah, Great Lakes is just more of like that mom and pop company.
What about the option of purchasing? And then having them come in every so often to,
So that's less likely, but I did look into it. It's about $1,000 a porta john.
Okay.
So if we spent 6,000-7,000 on porta johns, we could try to find a company that would service them. But usually the companies don't want to service them unless it's their product. You know what I mean? Because they're losing money. But that could be something we could hire Great Lakes to do because they are specifically a sewer and septic company, and they might be more willing rather than. So that's something I can pull numbers to. I saw how much they were. I just don't know why. I guess I didn't add that as an option.
Well, and the downside to buying it is if it gets vandalized, then guess what? We just.
That's true. And we don't need them, we don't need them year round. Yeah, we don't really have a place to store them or a way to pick them up that well, or, just, but that is an option we can look into for sure. Any other questions about the bloopers? Good.
On to the sign.
And the sign is another interesting one. Steve, zoning administrator, brought up, he used to work at a sign company and brought up discrepancies. This is the same company we used for the Twin Lake sign, so I just went with them again. But it seems there's a bunch of other companies in the area that do the same thing, take me things for less, for better material. So that was something I learned Friday, so it's something I'm gonna be digging into, but I just kind of wanted to get everybody a look at what these signs would look like, and if anybody had any different ideas of what a sign should look like.
Essentially, if we're willing to spend money on it, it's the.
Yeah, that's.
Right, it's in rough shape. It's in rough shape.
For another 10, for 25 grand, we could get a light up, LED sign. Put things on it.
That would be a good, that would be an improvement right there.
That's
Just
what
keep
we do
people-
today.
Keeping people informed.
That thought went through with the Twin Lake sign too, and it would be more appropriate here.
It sure would be.
Yeah, I can get those quoted out
Let's
too.
do that.
Okay.
That would be smart.
Yeah. Good look at it, all stuff.
Because the new sign would just fade away again.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
you're gonna be
expensive.
spending a lot of money.
Program that with a house sign?
Yep.
What it says?
Yep, there's software,
All kinds of stuff.
you can delay the
Time
messages, you can.
temperature.
Nice.
Right, like happy 4th of July and stuff like that, you can do all kinds of.
Yeah.
Now, the only thing I'll say about that is like you said, it's gonna be expensive, and there's some other things in here that I would like to get for the township that I think are along the same price line that are important. That's why I guess I kind of looked at this cheaper side, I didn't really think about the LED, so I guess just keep that in mind.
I quoted one pre-COVID and for two colors was $35,000.
Right.
Is there even power out there right now?
Yeah.
At this side?
There should be, there should be a box out there. So, better tree, let's say.
I know the fire department does, which wouldn't be difficult to get it.
Is it lit? Is it lit?
That one, no.
Yeah. Or electric if you did.
Another expense for sure. So I'll look more into the sign, but if it's something, I just will also want to get that on the radar on the sign.
I would,
Something that,
I mean, me personally, I was leaning towards a conservative
right,
number.
yes,
Would agree. But, so I would stick with some sort of physical sign. I get the appeal of an electronic sign because it would be nice to put stuff on. But I think those numbers are gonna climb.
also the maintenance on that. I can do, I don't wanna put a chip on my shoulder, I can do a lot of things, but I don't know much about digital signs, and I don't know if I could work on them as easily, so then I could. They're in Michigan, stuff's gonna break and crack, ice, expand, I don't know. We would be calling somebody a lot, so I don't, it's something else to think about.
So we basically have some people that want some stuff done with signs, some people that want the electronic aspect looked into. Is anyone just against the sign?
On the same boat. Kind of what it is, but just keep it at 10. I mean, I don't want to be cheap. I want it to last a long time, but like you said, if you can, I know you got some equipment in here. and
Yeah.
Equipment can last a lot longer or be more beneficial.
I think so, but I also, I agree with you, obviously, but I also think that it's something we should look into, that's why like when I got the quotes, I told them I want it good, better, and best.
Yeah.
And I think, it's kind of bland, it really is, but and I was telling Christy, cause she liked the rock on some of the other ones, I could do landscaping and just do my own little rock.
We were just saying.
Yeah, right,
grasses on each side and some flowers.
Yeah, and I could make it look really nice, and it's cedar, it's gonna last a long time, it's not plastic vinyl, which is out there now, and it got rated, but just options. This is my first work session, so I don't really know how all this goes, I'm kind of reading what I have. So are we okay on that? Should we go to the next item?
Yep, onto the list.
Lift, that's pretty self-explanatory too, not really, I guess, but, I mean, when I get anything done on the truck or trucks, I have to take it to Twin Lake Auto specifically for, I mean, even rotating the tires, because I don't have jack stands, like enough massive jack stands to do it. It would just make things way more convenient, like I just changed the oil on 2 trucks and it took me 3 hours, which is about normal for doing it in your garage at home, but if I'm doing it, you know, here, I'm gonna be doing it way more often than in my garage at home, in my own car kind of thing. So this is a company out of Nunica. I only got 1 quote because it's the only company I could find that sold and installed it that was local. And I mean, that's kind of local, but I got this from Keith, who works at Twin Lake Auto, he owns it. This is who he used. He said they're great. Literally saw our heaviest truck lifted by his lift, which is this lift. So I know it'll lift it.
So we're talking in-ground hydraulic.
It's a 2-post. So like it's a
Oh, yeah.
three, yeah. You could lift anything with it. So I mean, it's not huge. My original idea was to do it for fire department too, you know, so I could do some of the simple tasks, but I get to be, what is it, ASI or?
Yes.
AS, yeah, so you get to be, yeah, you get to be certified mechanic, and so I mean, I could probably change some oil on this thing
So
with it.
like this basically for changing oils in the truck and rotating tires?
Or if anything ever breaks.
So when you buy tires for your trucks, the tire place, do they not rotate tires for free?
Well, when you buy tires, they don't need to be rotated. Oh, you're saying afterwards?
Yeah, because my tire place does that for me. They even store my seasonal
He
tires.
does that. I'm sure he would rotate if I asked him to, but it's also, it's.
I'm
I
very,
like to do it at home.
I'm very uncomfortable with having, an automobile lift or a truck lift. And you're not a licensed mechanic. Like there's a whole bunch of liability that we would take on if a car dropped. You know, that's where my hesitation comes. I think I would need to see a little more in the way of how much it's gonna save. So you've got 7120 here, and it doesn't include the electrical. You know, how many vehicles do you have? How often do you do oil changes? What's the cost of the labor for the oil change, the labor for the tires? You know, that kind of stuff. What is our
Like how long it would
Break
take to
even.
pay for itself.
right?
Is it really worth the investment?
I agree with that, but I don't agree with the hazardous thing, because using a floor jack is way more hazardous than using a lift. I've used lifts in the past. I know I'm not certified, but I've used lifts in the past, and they're way safer than using a floor jack, because you're using jack stands kind of thing rather than it. Are you familiar with 2 posts and how they work?
No.
Okay,
Not, I mean,
so
no, I understand
Right.
2 posts.
Yeah, right.
lifts up, but
they have swinging arms that come out and they go out, so there's 4 contact points. When you're using a jack, you legally only have to have 3. So this is more safe than using a jack. Now, I do agree, I can work on some numbers to see if it would pay for itself. Probably wouldn't. This is just more kind of like what do you think? You know, I'm not
Right.
super sold on getting it. Originally, when I got this plan, was when I thought I could do everything for cheap too, because I know how to do race. I know how to do it all. I've done it for years. I mean, I'm not old. I don't want to be like, I've done it for years. Well, like I grew up, my dad always said, if your car breaks, you're fixing it. And I'm not showing you how to do it, figure it out. So that's something I've always done, and I've always worked on my own stuff. So I get that too. Yeah, you're probably right.
How many vehicles do we have to maintain? That would
I
require the-
I have 2 full-size trucks and a mid-size truck right now. But they're usually always hauling things too, so.
I mean, I'm just wondering if it would be more cost effective to have a contract with a maintenance shop, that we just go there every 3,000 miles, get the oil changed.
Well, Chief, you deal with Keith a lot, right? Do you have a contract set up, or is it just kind of like fly as you go and
No, just,
call them up?
yeah,
Yeah.
come up and say,
Right.
we get the little sticker, it says it's time to change your oil.
Right.
You go up there, change the oil. go in November, he takes my tires off, puts new tires on, keeps my old tires, do my thing, winter, change them out, does it on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles. I mean, the hardest part for me is having somebody come pick me up, bring me back.
Every time you have it done.
Other than that, I've had everything.
Yes, I'm just kind
One
of
day.
thinking, you know, you say it takes 3 hours with what you got now. And so would we almost break even or maybe be even more cost effective just to drive it over there, drop it off, come back in an hour?
I guess it all comes down to just convenience for me, the bending up and down thing. And I don't wanna say it's like a laziness factor, it's just a factor that there's a pain in the ass.
I can appreciate your heart, and what I'm hearing from your heart is, you look to save the township as much money as you possibly can, and that's where your heart's saying. But if I'm gonna be a lawyer, I'm gonna ask you on a witness stand, who trained you to change a tire? And the answer is gonna be nobody trained me to change a tire. In the corporate world where I came from, we didn't change tires. You had a flat, you called a record, and because we trained nobody to change that tire, and you aren't changing that tire. And I think that's where you're coming from, and all it would take is that one time, and we would be 5, 8, 10 times in the hole for for where we are now, so.
So I guess I agree 100%. I think you're right that's where I'm trying to go. It's also a pride thing too. If if I have the title of maintenance, I don't want to be taking the truck somewhere to get the oil changed, which I have. And then it was $100 for one truck, and I bought a full oil change for both 2 trucks, and it cost $100 the other day. So as long as we can all agree that having maybe that allotted in the budget somehow of like vehicle maintenance, maybe making a new GL for that.
We should have a GL for people.
Yeah. That should be it.
Yeah, so maybe something like that, so we can make sure, because sometimes we just take it out of a regular fund or whatever.
So you know what you're working with.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
What you have.
And I can do some numbers and try to just kind of get a ballpark for that too, on, like you said, the average of how long until the oil changes, how often, and stuff like that.
Yeah, we can do a ballpark, we can do it. Keep standards.
What are you doing your ballpark or seeing if I?
No,
give
he's
you
got
the,
the state budget.
I'll be something everybody should understand how it works.
Yeah, so you showed me how it worked when I
Right.
first started.
Yep.
So you folks require bigger floor.
2 posts? No, not necessarily, it's yeah, it all just has to do with how if they're free floating, if they're connected. But I kind of agree if we can make a, because I like what you're saying about the corporate world, just saying liability and all kinds of stuff.
It should be a lifetime, not one kid.
Right. Right. This is kind of how I feel about it too, like, something's broken on the truck, I'm gonna fix it,
He's got no last.
But in general, it seems like we're in the direction of not worth it.
Right, the GL thing maybe figured out, or even just anything like that.
Well, and I was gonna say, I don't look down on you at all. I think it's amazing you wanna do that, take that on, but I mean, as a maintenance supervisor, I picture you as, you're not there to maintain vehicles, you're there to maintain all the grounds and the facilities and all that. And so the vehicle is just your tool towards getting there, so I look at it as if the tool broke, you'd send it in for repair, or you'd go get it or whatever,
Right.
So that's how I do it.
But if I made, you already have one,
Do
it's just not labeled that way.
Right.
This is why, again, it's imperative, and I'm not trying to, if I may. Understand how budgets work, and if I may, remember we're a general law township, we're not a zero budget, we're a line budget, which really says, as long as you're underneath our rules that say I'm gonna spend $1,000, right, that's what I have to ask him, you don't have to explain anything. If we're doing the TVs, you don't have to explain that. Because we're not a zero budget. Zero budget means you put in a bunch of money saying, this is this, and you subtract money. We only care when we hit $30,000. Hit 30,001, now it has to work forward, technically, by how general law works.
So like when I got the ride on leaf blower, since I had the funding, I didn't have to even
Because
technically.
when you put the budget, that you already mentioned it here, you don't have to technically ask for it.
If it's so over a certain amount.
But if he specifies it, he puts a capital outlay, here, he doesn't have to. But if he wants to buy a $500 leaf blower, he doesn't have to come back to you.
Only
He has
if
to
it's
tell
over
you,
certain,
yes.
right?
Right, after we hit that large, like if you wanted, when you did the big things you're asking for now, obviously you have to.
Right, right.
But little things, if you want,
Right.
it's gonna be $27,000 for vehicle maintenance, done.
Right.
I don't have to say that it could be a one truck, $27,000.
Right.
So that's the good thing about how our budget works, is that it's not like a zero budget. If we were zero budget, we'd be screwed. Because that's where you have to line everything. It's when we get big events that have to get approval. Once the board approves on the 23rd, is that right, Jeff? 23rd?
Correct.
23rd, they say, yes, I want to sign this and this and this. You don't have to bring it back because it's already been calculated for that.
Okay, right.
It's when you spend over 1,000. What do you change that to? Anybody remember?
5,000,
For you, it's not 5,000.
5,000 for me for sure.
Right, so we can only spend to 1,000 before you have to ask him, and then he can go to the executive committee and say, we want 5,000 without coming to the board.
Right.
Right.
We're gonna go to the executive committee for up to 10,000 in emergency.
In your emergency, it's a right.
Right.
Not
I think
like,
we
hey, I really want
actually-
this now.
Only applies to fire, but could apply to you, but
We've usually, I think I've dealt with you guys specifically on that when I had to run the card for 1,200. I forget what it was for, but it was like, okay, we gotta get this kind of thing. I remember. So what was the GL, if you don't mind asking, that was associated?
It's gonna be 932, I believe. It'd be current ones, 101,265,932.
Yeah, it's
But I
all
wanna-
repair and maintenance.
Oh,
It should say vehicle, but I wanna confirm what it gives us as our limit.
I think that's the one agent throws there too, if I'm working out.
Well, we can figure that out.
Well, I just wanna make sure we're in the right number. Because mine's that way. Yeah, right.
So we want vehicle maintenance, 7.
makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, next we have a snow tractor.
So, this winter, recently, when I was plowing, I had to call loading, or J&J Farms, they had to come down with a loader. Because it's so much snow packed up in front of the last bay door over there by the fire department, the last tanker truck was blocked. You couldn't even get in or out. So, I didn't want that to happen again, so I started brainstorming, I was like, Jeff and I looked at like maybe a loader. Not unless you want to spend $250,000, if that, you're probably spending more than that. So, we have more of a residential tractor right now with a leaf or a snow blower attachment that broke as soon as I tried to use it. But if we had something that was the same, but maybe a little bit larger, so it was more usable. I know it's expensive, and I didn't even realize it was expensive, but that is a lot of money. But we cannot have a tanker be blocked and be at the whim of a
Why the
contractor.
snow was pushed there instead of in the middle? Like you got all that open space,
Right.
so why was the snow pushed in front of where the tanker comes out at?
I'd have to show you, it's a lot more difficult to explain, next time it snows out in the truck.
So this
It's
is
it's hard to explain, but just the way, have you ever plowed snow before, Nolan?
I snowboard.
Okay, well, when you plow it, you have to push it and put it somewhere, snow blowing it throws it somewhere.
I know.
Now, I can only push it so far with a truck,
This was
if that makes
heavy
sense.
snow too,
Yes.
so that
And it
was.
was 4 or 5 days nonstop.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying it's gonna happen every time, but it did block an emergency vehicle from operating. And I had to call a company and I waited for them before that vehicle was usable. I didn't like
Oh,
that.
it's not good,
I didn't like
that.
How much was that service?
Free, they did it for us because it was an emergency. And Scott over at J&J is really cool. He's friends with a couple of the firefighters too, so it worked out.
Yeah, I told them they could bill us, but
Yeah, we told him, I was like, send a bill, and he never did, so, but I don't think they'll do that every time.
No, but
Oh.
maybe we can, contract with them on a.
There is an idea of that, but that's also the
every
same issue with me being the plow guy, right? It's hard to find somebody who's contractable at a 2-inch minimum, like, that's why I do it, right? Because if you were to try to contract any local plow company to do it every 2 inches, good luck, you're gonna spend thousands and thousands, cause they're gonna be.
Yeah, but I think she's saying,
No, I know, so I'm
just
just saying,
built up.
no, I know, but I'm saying, so in context to that, those guys do the Reese Puffer School District, that's who they plow. So they're priority, so if they're not available, but the truck's blocked, luckily they were available at that time. But if they're not, then we're still in the same situation.
So could we contract with them and say, hey, once our piles get to, we're gonna make a plan for it.
Right.
Once our piles get this high, we see in the forecast that we've got a bunch of days in a row, we have them, just like the push down at the McCormick does, you know, yep, we got a lot, come push it down at the transfer station, we can get more in. You know, just try to do it before it becomes an emergency, and then if we contract with them, they will know ahead of time, and then
Right.
it'd be kind of in the back of their minds too.
I get that. You're right. The only thing I'd say is there's a lot more operations for this tractor than just snow. The tractor that we have now, like I said, is barely residential. It's
Is that
it's a
the
dog.
blue one?
It's the green one. It's actually manufactured by the same company that owns Walmart. So it's literally a Walmart brand tractor.
Okay.
It's junk, let's just be honest. But so with the transfer station, the compactor chute, that's also blocked right now because I had nowhere else to put the snow. But if I had a tractor, and this tractor, for instance, has a cab, so it's got heat. So that way I could take it down the road, wouldn't have to haul it. I could actually drive it over to the transfer station and blow snow or push snow, whatever I need to do. Same thing. The companies that we use, R&M, that's who it is, right? That's the name of this company. R&M hauls our trash bins out. I had to plow down there for him to be able to get his truck in. That was a huge pain. I thought I broke the truck a couple of times just because it's the type of terrain that's down there is not very solid. You know, it's got where the leaf pile is, so it's just got a lot of heavy traffic, specifically with the loader from McCormick. And then there's also other applications like when, you know, like fixing stuff at the cemetery. I've had to try to fix with the tractor we have now, certain potholes and stuff. I can't use the tractor we have now to even try to dig up dirt to use somewhere else. It's just too weak. So, I mean, you are right. It might not be a bad idea to have somebody contracted, regardless if it's J&J for the snow. But we also should probably look at this tractor as something that could be used a lot of other ways. I mean, just moving the rocks for when we had the Twin Lakes site finished, I had more rocks come in. I had to go rent a little mini excavator from J&J because the tractor we have would work because it was too weak. Push rocks. So, but also this price does not include the trade-in value. Scott said he would take our old tractor with attachments. I've looked it up, it's worth about 15,000, so he said he would be generous. So I'm assuming we'd probably get around 10,000 as a trade-in maybe, not sure. He didn't really write any of that up. He's kind of a grease on his hands kind of guy, so he doesn't, you know, sit down and do the paperwork.
Right.
So. But no, is there any other questions about the tractor? Any concerns? I know it isn't a lot.
Well, the other thing I would say, and this is not really what I'm thinking of. Anyway, sure bet you buy the snow blower attachment, and we're gonna go into 10 years of dry winters. It's just a guarantee. But anyway, no, I think it's a good idea. I think what you're saying is we need it just beyond what we'd use it for in the winter, be used year round. And I would say, I don't know who said it, but I don't know that we should go the expense of the snow blower because we could use J&J on an emergency basis to help us move big piles. And winters are trending more mild every year we go by. And so I don't know that we should necessarily, if we decide to go with this, that we do that snowblower attachment because it may just sit for years and never get used.
And I could also use the bucket. It just would take more time, but that's, you know what I mean. bucket.
Yeah, worst case scenario, yeah.
You've got heat, so.
Which would be ideal.
I mean,
So you'd have another resource to move snow without the blower.
Right, absolutely.
And it would save 10 grand.
This was just kind of like a everything included quote. You know?
I mean, I'm all with, that'd be cool, you know, but I'm just trying to, where can we save some money and still get you a good piece of machine?
do we do brush hogging and all of that thing too, or no, we don't? Just curious. And I mean.
We
you
hire
can
that
get-
out too.
I know, I mean, I was looking at a front mount snowboard for my, cause I have a Coyote too, 3500, 35, no, it's the one I should have bought. It's the one I should have bought, they didn't make this one then, but I should have bought the next size up, but, I mean, that would be way handier front mount, but I know they make 3-point mounts too.
Right. That's what I have.
A painted neck,
Oh, yeah.
but it's better than pushing snow, I know that, but, I mean,
3-point. Now, it broke as soon as I used it. It hadn't been used in a long time, and then the drive shaft snapped.
probably it's a small
It's
one.
bound, I think it's bound up. It's just old. Just hasn't been used.
Cement's a smaller unit too.
Very small. I think it's 40.
Yeah, that one, yeah. Tires are wider.
Right.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too, I don't know, like. How much those are, but I mean, I knew they'd probably be just as expensive, but I mean, I don't. Getting that used stuff or at all too, but
I don't really care.
as long as it's in good condition.
Yeah, I just went with J&J just to try to get quotes for this meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And J&J is really cool. They give us 20% off.
Yeah.
Which is huge. So kind of one of those things where I always tend to go to them.
Yeah, that's
We always cut a good deal.
I go too.
Yeah, right.
That's that treats you good.
Oh, yeah. Spending that. It's right on League of Water, for example, 15 grand. Closer to 10.
Well, and the added thing is if we go without the snow blower attachment, that could always be added later.
Right.
I mean, if things get really crazy, but I guarantee you, if you buy it, it's not gonna be needed.
No, we're buying it. It's a
Well,
big stuff.
I would, yeah,
There's no insurance.
But it would drop it by 10 grand.
So then $10,000 maybe trade in.
Right,
So
we're
we're
now
down
down to 25 grand out there.
It's a way more reasonable price. I mean, it's
Maybe have
well, and if we don't get the lift, well, that's another 7 grand savings. Just knocking this down.
depending on what type of county you're doing. Yeah. Mize Sand Mine Company, these are for drives at the Twin Lake Cemetery. And McCormick Sand has a quote here too, significant difference between them. As well. Yeah, big difference.
Same,
This is for the roads in the cemetery.
is it the same material in
Yes.
both?
What's funny is Mize actually buys their material from
Breaks
McCormick.
down a little bit different.
It's just for them, oh, they are gonna grade it.
Yeah. And it's just a 2-inch, there's already a solid base out there, but, so it's just a resurfacing. Yeah, it's rough out there, it's not terrible, but it could use resurfacing. You know, doesn't need to be done.
So, have we ever, I know this is gonna shoot me out of the park, have we ever looked at asphalt?
We haven't, but you're probably talking 40 at least, if not way more.
Is this gonna be just for the 3 entrances, or are you going all the way back?
Every road,
In the back section
Yeah.
too?
Yep, the whole thing.
It's very bad picture, but yeah, it's all.
It's all right.
It drives all the way around.
Do they spread around
Yes,
everything?
Mize would do it, they would do it all.
You don't have
I
to
think
go out and
it's-
spread the door?
Yes,
It says here grading, spreading, and compacting, so they'll
Oh,
actually
okay.
compact it too.
So
Which
it's
is
not,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's not just loose.
loose, yeah, otherwise you gotta drive on much.
And it's like driving in a waterbed, it'll literally just,
All of mine is the better choice. I would say.
absolutely, that's why it's a little more pricey. Crushed concrete, Tracy has her opinions on crushed concrete. She
I'm
told me
cheap
about.
and like crushed concrete. I prefer autumn or lawn care,
Prefer lawn care?
a tooth.
Nice.
And
Bone holds up good, man.
it's
It'd be like-
every
That's what my
every
tooth
time
like.
it rains, I walk around and pick up the garbage, pick up the glass, pick up, it's bad. Not right.
But no, so I think it's safe to say that we would, and I called 4 companies total, and this was, I've been on this proposal thing for longer than any of the rest of these quotes. And I still only have these 2, so Jeff and I talked about it, there's just some companies that I guess just don't want to work with the township. Which I guess is fair.
So how many cemeteries do we own? So how's the other one?
Doesn't have it does, but it doesn't have a drivable, like, it's not typically
Very
used.
different
There's
layers.
There's a 2-track kind of thing, but it doesn't.
So we don't have issues there, just do this.
No, that's more of like an old school, or I guess
Yeah,
we do.
I mean, we have issues, but it's not fixable with Dolomite.
Yeah, there's a lot of, anybody who goes to that cemetery, it's a roadside parking.
And there's other plans there too. So Heather is the cemetery coordinator. She's prepared a cemetery report that we'll see at the meeting next week, actually. So she's got some stuff on that, but she essentially has some plans on the Twin Lake one and some plans on the Oakland one, but they're different. The drive out of Oakland is, Russell is.
That's right on Russell, right?
Yeah, I've driven by there, yeah.
I got a question here. Like over here, it shows 256 yards of crushed concrete. Now look at that. And I go to the other side, it shows 4,615. That's why. Is that the same thing or?
Right, so when I talked to the guy from Mize, I told him that. I said it's approximately 4,600 square yards, what the SY stands for. He said he doesn't work in that. Material, I couldn't pull up the texts, but he said he doesn't work in that.
Like formal.
Yeah, that form of measurement. I'm not sure. He's very familiar with the cemetery. So, right, so that's why I was concerned too, but he's also from the area. He's also very familiar with the cemetery, so he
Right.
would know
Right.
what I'm talking about. And I believe, wasn't he on one of the boards at some point?
A
What's his
woman
last
was
name?
Mize.
Oh, Diane, that's one of them. Yeah,
She's trustee.
So in McCormick's quote, they talk about the existing roads and they talk about the parking area. Would that be included with Mises as well?
It may or it may not. The parking area is probably, in my opinion, one of the spots that really doesn't need it much because it's not used much. It's really, I would say it's used by me more than anybody else. I guess you could say that about all the roads. But I can't imagine it being a $10,000 difference.
I know, that's what I mean. It's like it's such.
Well, I mean, just for that parking area, but yeah.
Like the price, the bids between the two, it's like, why is McCormick so high?
I can call both of them to confirm again.
It'll be worth double checking on stuff, because all of my dealings with Jesse have worked out well. I was a little hard on him initially when I came to office to make sure stuff was good, but he's always been straight up, so I've never dealt with Mize.
That's what I would question, the quality between the two. Do they have projects we could look at? Or, I'm more, McCormick does more that I see than Mize does, so I don't know their quality.
Quality of work.
Well, we had some sand brought in from McCormick and they were the cheapest around. I mean, for quality, I'm not sure where this Mize is, but anyway, yeah.
They're local. They're in Dalton.
Road.
Anyway, I was pleased with McCormick, and the quality that they use. I think you could be in more specific bids, so you're apples to apples,
Just a double check on Mize that they'd be doing an appropriate scope of work.
I don't like the project, I think it's great.
There's also a communication issue with the mines, because the owner and whoever I've been dealing with is a snowbird. So he's been communicating from Arizona. So I guess there could be a concern there, at least to try to just button everything up. Probably get wrong, I'll do that. Let me just tell everybody too, I'm not a paperwork guy. It's very difficult for me and it's a big breakthrough for me actually being this organized. So if there's anything I missed or if I don't seem like I know what I'm doing, that's I got
Doing a fine job.
I'm just letting everybody know, like, it's not my stronghold.
Probably should have led with that.
Yeah.
It's like when I got this, I'm like,
What's this? Well, it's a shed. What's up with that?
No, that's where we go, let's go, I have no idea.
So if we will move on to
She
this,
said.
if we will move on to this, I just spoke with the person at Mast Mini Barns today. And it's not gonna look like this, it's just kind of a frame of reference, cause you can draw anything you want on their website. Yeah, sorry, it's for the transfer station. It's for the transfer
He
station.
needed, dude,
I'm sorry.
they needed.
So,
Okay, that changes
so
everything.
the one he didn't send it to me still, he spelled township wrong. And apparently the email didn't go through, but so what I requested is 10 by 10, because that's also, I found out underneath building code.
120 square feet or
Right.
below, we don't have drawings.
But there will be specifications I asked for is that it's insulated, top and bottom, or sides and bottom. It's got a metal roof, I wanted that way we don't really ever have to mess with it. And all the walls will be 2-inch insulated, so that I can do the electrical and we can have somebody inspect it, or we could have if we're gonna go the same route. Somebody else can do the electrical. Somebody else can do the electrical, then have it inspected, then somebody else can finish it, but I know it.
We'll let you try it.
Yeah. But so it would also be important, I think, to have some sort of electrical box in the building, because we don't, it's, you know what I mean, at least just a main breaker system.
Yeah. Definitely.
And then the biggest thing is it's gonna have a 4-foot overhang.
Yeah.
So when you step out, people can drive under that. That way there's no
Smart.
rain or any,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said that's about $10,500 right now. That's with vinyl siding, metal roof. 1 4-foot window on every wall. And then it will kind of look like this where there's a door in the center. He's gonna put 2 windows on each side of the door, and the door will be a glass door, a full view door. Because in that building, you want full visibility, so you wanna be able to see, you know,
Yes,
everybody
yeah.
doing what you told them, hopefully nobody's throwing paint and stuff like that's supposed to be. So that's gonna be around, he said it could lower, the price could lower a lot if we got rid of the vinyl siding, so we're looking around $10,000 plus tax, and I told him that we're tax exempt.
So this estimate is not a fast.
No, I just drew this up real fast, I couldn't, they're
Garage.
no. Yes, but no, I can't remember the word, the software is very difficult, it's very linear, like there wasn't much for options.
Right.
So I just kind of drew something up so I could print and have you guys could kind of have an idea. But yeah,
Where'd you want that insulated again?
insulated,
You said the floor.
well, the floor specifically, because the floor isn't insulated in the one now, there's a lot of moisture that comes up every time it's even foggy. The walls also. The windows in the transfer, well, let me give you the building that we have now. It's very moldy, very mildewy, it's not,
Oh, it's
it's not
nasty.
sealed very
Oh,
well.
it's nasty.
Yeah.
It's nasty.
So windows do not work.
Right. It ain't even right.
The windows don't work.
Right.
Um,
It looks like a transfer
and
station.
you have to have a
So
buddy
check
heater on,
transfer.
at least high, even if 30-degree weather, it keeps up. But, yeah.
You drywall ceiling on that or?
I think
just
this,
the rest
I
The
think the
metal
ceiling might be done, if not, it's just rafters.
No, not now, I mean, the new one.
That's what I mean, I'm not sure how finished the ceiling is.
You're gonna wanna insulate the roof too.
Yeah,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, let's tell you or something.
I just heard the walls and the floor.
That's what we heard too.
You need a.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Blanket.
I guess that's my fault.
Like rain in there.
Right.
I just assumed that everybody knew that. I guess I should have said that specifically. Yeah. But yes, of course, the ceiling.
Is that, those are questions about that overhang, is that.
Yeah.
How, like, you know, tall, underneath, where's it, like, where's
You'd have to be careful
it?
that trucks don't catch it.
So I guess I don't, but we could make sure
Oh,
it hasn't been built or even
Yeah,
approved or
oh, I
anything.
know.
So we could make sure that it's tall enough.
I know this,
I think 14 foot is the state standard, or 13.9.
And the problem is some of those people bringing those super tall trailers and whatnot, not all the time, but enough
Well, as long as we have the edge,
space that they could go around.
well, if
Yeah.
we have the edge of it where the front of the transfer station building is now,
Correct.
That there's plenty of
Then
room
it's
for
completely
anybody.
fine.
Right.
We just wanna make sure we don't take up too much space towards the recycle bin so
Right.
that people can get through still.
The main reason for the overhang is for the elements for the attendant, not necessarily for anybody to drive under it.
Yeah, like you.
Cause I'm assuming there's probably posts that come down, if I
Yeah.
had to guess,
Yes.
so it's gonna be difficult to even drive underneath it anyway.
You see if I have
I want to see that.
I have a couple of sheds like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was just kind of like over the phone, he's like, this is what we usually cut, this is what it'll cost. I'm done.
We're on to a tech which I think we've discussed a little bit, right? Yeah.
I have some words for people to text to.
Right now?
Yeah. So.
She's testing it.
All right, so your first number is 435.
Texting it to this?
Yep.
Oh. 435.
265. 4446. So we have 3 keywords or phrases. You can text register to vote, tax information, or meeting minutes.
We'll pick which one you want, right?
Yeah, pick one.
Thank you for contacting Dalton Township's treasurer. To view your taxes, click here. That's cool.
Thank you for contacting Dalton Township, Michigan, for our latest meeting minutes and agendas. Please feel free to follow the link below. Have a great day.
Just that
So-
one was cooler than all my presentations.
So that's one of the things that it can do. It can also, if you are registered, you need that number again? 435 265 4446. The other thing that we can do is people can sign up, and the lakes are one area that I think will get some interest, elections. I could sign up our election workers and blast out notices to them, reminders. If somebody lives on the lake, we can say, hey, North Lake, they sprayed today.
Or E. coli or anything like that, right, like the swingers itch.
Right, yeah, no contact for 24 hours or whatever. But yeah, so we can set up phrases for people to text to get information, or we can push stuff out too.
How do they get this information? How do they get the number to text to, or how do they sign up?
We
If
would put it on.
that lighted sign out there, it would say it.
Yeah, that's one of them.
Just say that.
It'd be on our website, we post it anywhere, we would, like also Jeff's newsletters, sign up, could be QR codes, could be whatever.
So is this a private company? Because 435 is out of Utah, area code.
They are out of Utah. Nice.
Nice state.
Yeah. Yeah, they are out of Utah. They are from.
You think we would get a lot of views for the cost of it?
He's gonna submit, you know, what does it come to?
5,000, they cut on the.
They cut the $2,500 like first year fee type thing.
Fruitland Township is doing it.
Right.
They started it. I think the response was that they haven't had a lot of interest yet, but they're, working to get people signed up.
You have to sign a contract for a certain.
Yes.
4 terms, it says this is a 2-year term. So what?
So, yeah.
Super long time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
extend it.
super long period of time. That's like the cell tower contract.
Yeah,
Those are long.
those are long.
I mean, basically it comes down to whether, well, like everything in life, whether we think it's worth it.
Right.
I'll say not even a part of it, I live in Cedar Creek, but I think it's smart for, I think everybody should have this regardless. Every municipality, I mean, it's literally 2024.
Right.
I don't know if you just saw the new VR thing that just came out from Apple, but texting is the minimum we should do.
Right.
And that's just me as like an outsider looking in, definitely. I think it just I mean, is it worth, what was the price again?
It's 5,000.
My thing is the engagement levels. If it was like 500 people are gonna sign up for this, and be like, oh, well, great. That would be the only way we could communicate with 500 people other than mailings then.
Right, that's what we don't know.
Right.
If we
We're
can
not
sign
You
up,
don't have to do the mailings anyway, right?
we still have to do some mailings.
But you, the generation that's not gonna use it
Right.
is the elderly. And then you have all the Chicago and all the summer people that go and are not even here to utilize it, right?
Or they would utilize it because then it would be an extra reminder because they're not here all the time.
Right,
Could you
so
do just 1 year, just for like an experiment?
I think it's a 2-year.
Is it 2 minimum?
But if, when elections come around, I can put a blast out, hey snowbirds, did you get us your correct address?
Or like mailing
We're mailing ballots, ballots will be mailed this date, did you
True.
get us your correct address?
So included in the 5,000, you'll get 5, if you had everybody, Dalton Township, 10,000 people. So, I'm just trying to do the math, right?
You don't even
50,000,
have 10 bucks in it.
you get 9.
9,000.
I'm rounding down.
30. Almost, but yeah.
So we go voters, we have 7,000 registered voters, roughly. So if they were signed up and I blasted everybody, that's 7,000 text messages. I guess to look at it in number of communication.
$50,000 text messages per year, we're
Yeah, that's
certainly not gonna hit that.
Unless you're texting a high schooler or something, I guess. Text
I
them
mean,
on.
even if, because we have a few dozen people sign up if we text them every day.
They can text up.
I would not be into this for a few
Yeah,
days.
and we'll get notified if it's something that's not.
If you like, you come pay your taxes, here,
What-
give me your phone number for tax. It's the only way we're gonna communicate with you from now on, and I'll give you $5 off your taxes someday. That's, I know that's not necessarily appropriate.
That's a business strategy. It's a government strategy, I'm not sure. But
Yeah, true.
$5 for the transfer station.
There you go.
True.
not taxes.
Interesting to survey people as they do come in to pay their taxes. How many do you have come in person? Most of it comes in.
Taxes,
Yeah.
but it was a steady line all day.
Oh, it was,
It'd be interesting to survey and say, hey, would you be interested in text messaging from the township for events?
I've got one more week left, so.
applications.
Yeah, just take a survey on that.
So that's what text my goes.
Just have a covered porch.
And then we have to
I didn't know.
have to decide to get that like free $2,500, but we have to make a decision for that. It's not a contract, so
That's why.
You might want to
wait about it till then.
This proposal is valid for February 27th.
Let's see what the, like, standard doors.
That's from Matt.
So, yeah,
It's not from Mass, but it's Amish.
Oh, right.
It's the same thing.
so if they have a time frame on it, I can put it on, for the meeting next week to vote on this. Is that what?
Would that be for next budget year? For,
Yes. Yeah, by
So
the time
it's,
we
it would start in
implement.
April,
Yeah.
but we just have to sign it next week or before February 27th
Okay.
for the $2,500 off.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess, yeah, if you wanna think about that and we'll vote on it
So-
next Monday.
We get $2,500 off the first year, the second year it goes up 2,500?
No,
No,
it's-
it's a $2,500 installation cost.
Okay,
And they're cutting that,
okay.
like
You
a
have to pay
mobilization fee essentially.
Oh, okay.
No,
Set
you
up
pay
fee.
1 year at a time.
Next, I threw these televisions in here, so they're not that expensive, which is bad. But obviously, everyone was here when Eric was presenting the audit, it was great. So if we throw a big TV up on that wall, and then just when we have some things like that, we don't have a ton here normally, but I think it's a better idea than a projector. Most places are going towards screens now anyways. We can have a little setup so someone can plug in an HDMI in it and possibly run from that computer if we need to do something else for it. So
I would use it for election training.
we need it for election training. So just wanted to, I figure a big TV on that wall. So anyone, that's reasonable.
I can't believe our TV is took scrap $450 for 75 inch. I think I paid $1,000 for I've had this TV for 15 years. It's $1,000 for like a 40.
Yeah.
It's like
That's why. I looked at it, I was too much for me.
I have a Samsung from you.
I got my 65 ball last year.
I only use it.
Yeah.
You know, it'd be interesting to get, well, I'm just throwing out another brand, Vizio. We've had our Vizio for 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's worked great. I know, Samsung has good deals on these two.
Yeah.
And you gotta add the mount to it, because it's not gonna sit on it.
Oh, right. Correct.
There's 30 bucks in there,
It's
so
good.
yeah, depending on the amount. Yeah, if we wanted to pull out and swivel and turn, that'll be about $100, but if you just wanted to sit there, it'd be about 30.
I'll see it.
So you're gonna write up a proposal on that?
Yeah, really,
She's just doing it.
it's a small enough amount that I can just do it, but we can just stick it in the budget and I can do it after April. I don't think it's super well, unless actually if you want it for election training.
He wants it for next week.
We can just do it. Or-
Get new stuff coming.
There's your power. Right, there's already a power. So, yeah, we can just move it.
I think we can fit it in this year.
So, yeah, I was gonna say it's budget, but it makes sense, especially for election training.
I just gotta find some stuff.
There's some over there, so.
There's steel stuff too.
Thank you. Going to Sam's tomorrow.
All right, if we move on to the next piece, we've got one page which are just the adjustments that'll be made in the fire budget as we come across it. So right after that, we have the grid sheet, which is the budget overall. And we have in the back of this packet, 5 years of activity and 5 years of amended budgets, just because I know especially like the trustees, you guys don't have the computers that we have where you have the DSA system to look at that stuff. So you have a lot of reference this way for the past 5 years, if you want. So, which we can just cruise by. Starting off with property tax, which plan, it's been going up. Same thing, marijuana tax is fairly new. It's weird how those fees work and how they go with the state. So I've got that put in at 50 grand, which we should come in a little over that, I assume. Although I'm not sure with the one on 120 changing hands, I don't know if that'll change anything. So, but I believe it's still staying up there in one place. Penalties on taxes go up and down. You can see in the 5-year schedule that some years we're charging just under $100, some years we're at significantly over that $4,000. So essentially, that $100 is just way on the conservative end because it fluctuates up and down by law. Admin fees, benchmarking, as they've slowly been going up over the years, the last 5 years of activity. But 108. Dog license is something that we used to do, as we're deciding to push it to the county, so just the counties doing it now, which is why there's no revenue there. Business licenses is one of those things that can fluctuate a decent amount, although been somewhat consistent. So I have that at 5,500. The franchise fees collected, I've got an 87,000 in here. It goes up and down a little bit, but not a ton. It's been holding right in there somewhat over the last handful of years, so it seems like a decent estimate. Local community stabilization, there's some uncertainty about whether that was going to continue to exist or not last year, but it looks like it's continuing to move forward. It ties in sometimes with another one, the Metro Act money. So this 6,200 looks like a conservative number for it. The state shared revenue at $920,000 should be, since we're at last year of 919, should be on the conservative side, assuming the economy goes fine. Which Chamber of Commerce had a presentation by an economist at Grand Valley recently. He said you would expect some time this year for there to either be a recession for the nation. Specifically for Muskegon County, doesn't think it'll really affect us because of the tight real estate market and such, but not sure about Michigan overall. Can affect that, but seems like it should continue to uptrend. The Metro Act money, I believe that one is a tax. So dug into that at one point. We weren't sure if it was going to continue. Having $11,000 of tax that we end up doing for cell phone companies, where I think it actually comes from. Looks like it's going to continue to exist. We don't have anything, $0 put in for expected grants. Obviously, if grants were to come through, if people were to apply for them and they come through, great, but not necessarily great to plan on. Zoning and variance fees, I have at $10,000 on there. Just depends on who is applying for how much, but it looks like that should be on the conservative side, although a few years ago it had been below that, but that was coming out of COVID years. Building department to rent, office, and utilities, we have at $7,000. That's fluctuated a little bit, but that should be on the conservative side because it should be a little bit over that based on now.
We should review that. Do you know when that was last updated?
What do we rent?
Seems like
So our building department has its own fund and by law. And it can't make money. Or by law, the building department can't make money. So we have it in a separate fund. And so the township essentially gets about 5% of a building permit. But we provide the paper and supplies and the office space for the building inspector. So there are some places that have it in their general fund budget, but we have it separate. So to recoup some of those costs, we charge this way. Because we're not taking 5% if we're not building them.
seems like we get a minor increase last year.
I don't think it's increased since I've been here.
Maybe it was the year before, might be.
Yeah. Okay.
Below that, building department supplies and equipment used, 1,400, same type of thing. Building department using township employees expense 2,600. Charges for services are this one zeroed out, along with the school summer tax collection at one point, which created as a revenue line.
We still get that.
We get that
Do we?
$2.50 a parcel.
I don't know if
It was about
rolled up.
15,000 this past year.
And because we don't have activity in it, 2022, 2023, did we put it in somewhere else?
It might have gone somewhere else, but
Should it
We have it
continue
under
to
that.
exist on that line item?
Yes,
about
yes.
13,000 usually.
Depends on if there's more splits or less combinations.
Okay. Yeah, so we'll make sure we get that put in there.
Yeah.
Transfer station tipping fee. So I have this at $40,000. This has fluctuated a decent amount over the years, up and down. partially because of fluctuations in use. I also think partially because of fluctuations in estimating while you're out there. We've turned the position over a few times. And when we come to this later, we'll come to what we're paying on the transportation. We're at the point of losing money on it as it's been a continual issue over the years. The fees were increased just a little bit before I got in 2019, not by a ton. It seems like there was a kerfuffle over it in the area. I remember it. I remember people being upset about it, but if you actually look at the increases, they were pretty minor. Over the last couple of years, the county started charging us $10 for each fluffy item or any item with stuffy, anything like that. There's no way for us to get out of that fee, but it's going to fire into it, which means those are hitting us pretty decently out there. Make sure we charge the right amounts. And so I really didn't want to increase the fees out there during my term, but it's probably reasonable it's probably responsible to increase the fees out there somewhat to try to make those numbers even out. We don't need to make money on the transfer station, but we don't want to lose a ton of money on it either. Otherwise, we're supporting it with other tax money. Essentially trying to run it as like its own nonprofit that continually falls into not good state.
Sorry, there was a considerable mess in there that I did not know about. Need to be cleaned immediately.
Oh,
Yeah, that was gross.
I don't think we knew about that.
yeah.
I didn't know. Obviously. And then, twice.
Everybody was looking at you. One of those people paying their taxes at the end of the day.
Yeah. Mixed.
Next.
No.
Yeah.
So in the recycling, there's also a big push for the recycling aspect of the transfer station, but also statewide. So I want to say it's in a few years, every house has to have curbside recycling available. And the county has to put together a plan, not just that, but other things to meet all of these goals. So I'm part of that group. So I'm kind of looking at, there are cardboard balers, and then you bale up the cardboard and you can sell it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if there is an opportunity, and I don't know how much space we have out there, but an opportunity for, like, say we're the northern site for a drop off for cardboard baler, and then that offsets itself. So there are just a lot of things out there that we are trying to get, and the goal of the Muskegon County Leadership Group is one of the goals is to make recycling as easy as it is to throw it away. So, a lot of that is education, like your bags. Where do those recycle? Your stuff. So, if anybody has ideas or connections or thoughts on that, I to take it back and share with that group.
I think the baler's a good idea. It's just power. Out there, we're limited on power, but I think it could be doable. Done that in the past. It works really well. You can fit a lot in a bale.
Yeah.
And we do get a lot of cardboard out there. A lot.
So that's a thought, and they do have grants for, and I wanna look into a grant for that shed too,
Oh, okay.
because they do have some money available for transfer stations.
You told me about that. Yeah.
So
That would be nice.
I will check on that before the budget gets all the way done, but,
Yeah, there should be room out there too. We can find a spot.
That recycling thing, is that like a statewide thing, is that?
yeah, there's some new public acts, public laws that went into place that's pushing, you hear the governor talking about a lot of renewable energy by this 2030 or something, but this has to do with recycling, and the Muskegon area doesn't have anything. All of our recycling has to go to Grand Rapids or
Thought there was a place on Apple by Goodwill.
Just like you're talking about like a facility to.
Right, that separates plastics and, yeah, Yeah.
Facility that.
and actually recycles, uses stuff.
Don't have anything put in court fines. Interest from the bank, $40,000 there. I mean, interest this year, I would expect to be going down because it's been decently high, but
And they did say the feds are gonna reduce interest rates.
that's what they've been saying. So it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Saying that for 6 months.
it's difficult to predict, you know, so I assume that our interest income is going to go down this year.
Well, you say that, but are we locked in? We have it locked in for maybe 6 months?
The M class is month to month. That's just based on the rate. We do have some, and we could convert some into more
Like you,
locked in rates.
yeah,
but-
Christy and Tracy talked about like using ladders or CDs or something like that. But
Yeah, so we have something with, we just signed up with Choice One that is 2 months at a time, but one is always coming due each month, so they're staggered, so that if we needed it, it would be liquid. How long is we're talking about interest, we're locked in at Consumers Credit
For
Union.
1 year,
For
for
1 year.
5.56.
So we could look at locking in some more if we wanted to.
Well, when Michigan class came through, and that was my high one up until it went down a 5.4 now, so now it's on the decline.
But there's no lock-in with them, it's just
No.
whatever the rate is.
No. We could move some to consumers or towards CD too.
Yeah. Increase that.
Interest income on special assessments levies, those are the ones that we have are done individually later on, separate funds. The rental on Duff Road dwelling is a house that the township used to own on the lake. We don't.
That's something good.
That was on. Senior millage township portion. So this one, I literally put in a question mark, and because this is being voted on at the county level. And we do a little bit of not the only ones that do it, but because we've been spending half on snow plowing in the year and then the half on the enforcement process for going after senior scammers. When we're doing it in the fall, we're technically spending it before it's been fully allocated to us or given to us. And it hasn't been collected because it's not December yet. We haven't done that portion of it. And so if we don't know if it's going to exist, because it's being voted on this year, it would be odd to start spending that on snow plowing before we know that the senior millage money is going to continue. Or if the county were to be changing the rules, right? Because right now they allocate 25% to local municipalities. Potentially, especially if it's up for a vote, they could do that differently. So we don't really know if we're getting it. So we could assume that the county is gonna put it down the same, the process is gonna be basically the same, the amounts are gonna be very similar, throw in about 30 grand in there and move forward like that. We could do 0 and allocate it like we don't know that we're gonna get it, and if it does happen, then make an adjustment as it happens. If we allocated for it, and we still wanted to do snow plowing, and it were to not actually come through at the very end, so then obviously that would be just part of the township funds that would have gone towards that. And then so we don't need to allocate the stuff in the spring that we didn't get. So just wanted to see which way people want to go on this on the budget.
I'm fine leaving it blank until the election.
Just like
Yeah,
it doesn't.
like 0.
Yeah.
Like we don't expect to get it because then we don't have to budget for the.
Well, the thing is, if we
outgoing.
are getting it, we get a certain amount of revenue and the expense is the same.
We spend it up, yeah.
Right, so it equals itself out, it's no big deal, I think it's reasonable to put it as 0 so that we're
I do
not
too.
counting on something we might not get.
I agree.
And then if we get it,
It's a bonus.
right,
It's I see that too.
Well, and yeah, it goes back out,
It
so.
goes back
You
up,
know,
but
we need to finalize that for this year. So that we can get it before.
We allocated the snow stuff. Did we allocate the rest of it for the senior scammers? Did we do that in a meeting?
I think we did.
I think
Or
we
it
did
was,
too.
it was
that
in
sounds
your
familiar.
discussion, but
Yeah.
I think we allocated it. But we have to, we haven't gotten any bill.
I think we did.
We certainly have at some point, but my last couple of years might be blending together a little bit.
Exactly.
What was that? To that number and I can get a link.
she's trying to sell us, guys.
So what if we allocated it all, what are you saying we need to do? We need to conclude, you mean we need to get billed?
For the current year, we need to get billed for current year because we have
Right.
money available right now.
Correct, yep.
We just have to ask for it and we have to get billed. We're gonna get caught on that threshold.
Yeah, and the county operates in a different fiscal year than us, so that's part of why the snow plowing has to be a little off. As far as the timing goes, Eddie talked about the county with that, whether we can do it or not, just because of the timing, but, all right. It's the guest with a capital G, 2023 exclamation mark. G,
2024.
did they change it to 24? Capital G, guest.
Yes.
Yes.
That's 20.
I don't know, I don't ever know.
2024.
No.
2023 exclamation mark. They skipped 2022 completely, so all through 2022 is 2021 still.
I still ask Chief all the time. The fall under maintenance.
No, IT falls under me.
Okay.
Oh, guys.
Next, we have
My right hand, I fix your computer, I fix your phones. Thank you for
I'll send you the bill.
No, he's gonna send you the bill.
Yeah, right.
We got
Sorry.
election reimbursement is next. Now, I put a question mark on this and stuff, falls under Tracy, but I know so many changes have been happening because the ballot proposal changed and the state had to make up all the laws to go with it. So, and those have still been changing, but
Yeah.
do you know if the reimbursements are happening the same? It seems like with 9 days of in-person voting, like, that number would change.
Yeah, the number's gonna change, cause they'll reimburse for that, but the fact that it takes 6 months does not change, so it could be in this fiscal year or it could be next year, so that's the part that changes, but I can get.
Partially be in this fiscal year and partially in the next,
Yeah,
probably like August and this one, November in the next one.
so I can get a better number.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, I assume if we benchmark for it, it's gonna end up on the conservative side, because now it's gonna be higher, so it'll be fine, it's not like we're counting on revenue higher than what we're gonna do.
Right.
Cell tower revenue, so we do have a new cell tower that's being looked at, being put in, but that's probably gonna take up between Goose Egg Lake and Stevens Lake. That's probably gonna take 12 months to go in, so I don't think we're gonna get any of the income probably in this fiscal year. Next, we have contracted services with Village, $4,800. That's because there's only a building administrator had stepped away, they're having a hard time filling the positions. We end up doing a contract with the Village, so Steve does the zoning. Sale of assets, that's their plan. Certainly can happen. And then we have conference tax reimbursements, refunds, miscellaneous, just a catch-all. So in this, fluctuates up and down decently over the last few years. I mean, it's gotten up over $12,000. And this year we're just under $5,000 at this point. So $5,000 looks like decently conservative. So all those together, and obviously we didn't include anything on senior services and the election reimbursement, but it's probably about $1.6 million. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns, any of that? Trustees, we were at $5,000 apiece for $20,000. Pension is 12%, so 2,400. Documented mileage, we haven't even turned anything in on that in particular. And then miscellaneous education, we haven't had a ton. I put $1,000 in there, so just in case anyone wants to do any training.
Yeah, there's.
Supervisor, we have $50,000 for salary. Deputy supervisor is something we've considered, but I don't think makes sense at this point. Pension comes in at $6,000. Documented mileage, I don't think I've reported any mileage, maybe once early on, but doesn't matter. And then education, I've included $1,000. I front loaded my term, makes sense. I've been trying to do some more education stuff recently because in general, I think it's good to keep up with. Next, we have administration, office supplies, and postage, and so comes in around $10,000. Just benchmarking that essentially, being pretty consistently just a little under that. Computer support and operating expense at $20,000. We were talking about the phone and computer issues and stuff like that. We contract with Central Dispatch. Not exactly through the county. They're their own things. In different parts of the county use a different service, but that's who we use. That makes sense to continue with that. Repair and maintenance. We haven't used a ton here, almost none, but some every now and then. So it makes sense to have a little bit in there in case we just need to stick something in there when something breaks. $500 I included. We have professional services, and this has fluctuated a decent amount. I left it in there and what we're at for this year so far. And we must have moved something we're allocating somewhere else. So currently it's at 12,438. If we continue with the same services there, this is going to be decently high.
Are you meaning like repair on equipment when you say professional services? Is that like, is that copier?
That's like the copier or production services and contracts we sign. Cleaning.
No.
We contract out in cleaning. I don't think we looked at contracting cleaning.
No, nobody's cleaning.
We didn't end up contracting.
Yes, they are. So right.
It's nobody cleaned on Friday.
It's not April yet.
Okay.
It's not your money. That's something.
Okay.
We're starting in April. That was the deal.
That's fair.
My full-time guys been hired for a couple of weeks.
It was a whole thing. I should have left. I was trying to fill some hours for a guy that was working here, and it ended up being a mess. But so we haven't contracted for cleaning.
Sorry, Rob.
Yeah, it should be.
Oh, no, that's
Very much so.
in the computer system.
Well, the
I think
biggest thing to
I think
backs
our
up
bonus
is the
is up
GL.
there.
We have to go through it after so many years before she can pull the GL out. So if it stays zero, it has to stay in there for so many years.
I mean,
Keep the
it's
GL show.
inactive, but if you just have to select
The
things
online,
without
right.
zero.
Right.
But yeah, this one,
Correct. I can just make when we actually bring the budget for voting, I can just make it smaller. So when we come across streetlight and stuff, I think it's good to mention that we wrap streetlight into all that stuff, but it's all zero. So. Well, yeah, I'll have to look at that professional services one more. These next ones, contracted services for plowing and mowing. At one time, the township contracted those out. 8 does them now. payroll, bank fees. We haven't been charging anything in there.
We had to do that for the first 4 years. We had it 3 years. We had to pay a fee when we first started our ACH. Yeah. No problem. Yeah,
You still do.
yeah, but right.
And utilities have gone up quite a bit over the last handful of years. So, and judging by last year being at 11,302, 12 grand might even be light, but I mean, right now we're at when I generated this report, 6,975. So it's decent. Yeah, good. So maintenance on the Duck Roadhouse doesn't exist. Miscellaneous education, everyone is covered under their own staff, so it isn't needed in administration. Property tax chargeback, hasn't been benchmarking there. Capital outlay, this is where I put in the big screen for the boardroom, but if we're gonna move on that essentially right away, then we don't do that. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns? I can click a lot faster and then but if anyone has anything on a specific line,
Are
like
you going through all
Jump in.
20 pages?
jump in. Yeah. Oh, roll. Clerk, we got 50 grand for salary, deputy is 1,000, admin assistant, which this gets into employee raises, essentially, other than the elected. And so a lot of times how the municipalities will handle them is they'll just do a certain percentage kind of across the board. Now we essentially have eight primary people, but a lot of us are elected. So it drops our primary full-time employees down to really just a few. A few of them are salary and a few are based on wages, like the admin assistants, notably. So if we just do a percentage increase, then the people that are making the most end up numerically getting more. If we try to calculate out essentially that everyone gets a couple $1,000 raise, then we can essentially figure out how much of an increase that would be per hour for admin assistants.
Well, I did figure that out. Where did that go? Because that's a lot. Here we go. So $2,000, I'm talking just the hourly girls right now, because the other two are salary.
Yeah, just the two
So
admin assistants.
the $2,000 at 52 weeks divided by 52 weeks is $38.46, which is $76.92 a pay period. So you take the 38 hours that the girls work, that's all that we're open, that's 38 hours. Correct?
32 is full-time. 32 is full-time.
32 is full. So we're here 38 hours, 4 days a week. We're doing 38, and it equivalents to $1.01 a raise for the girls. $1.01 per hour. Yes. And if I went by, I don't know how long Nate is here. If he was here 40 hours a week, I don't know. It would be 96 cents an hour. So just a few pennies less than the girls. So.
Yeah, so basically we have to determine how we're gonna handle employee raises, assuming everyone wants to give employees some raise. Do we wanna do it as something like that? Or do we want to do a percent across the board, pick one?
Did you find out what the cost of living was? Wasn't it 3%? 3.4%.
Let's say let it went up 3.4%.
Social, I think cost of living is 3%. And if this is on a percentage, it was over 5%. It was over a 5% raise.
3.2.
CPI this last year, consumer price index was 4 even.
4.
3.2% this year.
3.2. To think about.
Well, some easy buttons to push here, but I'm not really into easy when it comes to that. Because your higher wage earners become even higher wage earners and
Because of the percentage.
separation becomes worse. And then there's one word I'm missing out of all of that conversation is merit. Who's doing, who, is there a year-end process? Do we evaluate, is there evaluation?
They've all gotten, they have 6-month reviews. And Heather's had hers, Amy will have hers next month, and I believe Nate has, so 2 out of the 3 have already received
I had
raises.
my 1 year. When Heather had her 6 months.
Right, so the 2 of the 3 have already had raises,
Oh, and also with that review came raises.
came raises, yes.
Not for me.
Yours is different. It is completely different.
Just.
We switched you to salary.
You receive more money upon asking for salary.
Yeah,
Then they get.
yeah.
So you already received a raise, just like in Heather got a $1 raise, and Amy at her 6-month, we're planning a $1 raise.
From when she was hired. Because you have to remember we've had large amount of turnover. So, well, so, and that's the other way we could go, which is very reasonable. It seems that with the way the organization works, it's best to do raises, assuming people stay here for a year, when you come around to the budget. So, but they could be done on like yearly basis based on retirement date. Everyone's reevaluated at that time, adjust there.
That's,
I like to hear the budget. That gives us an idea where we're going with it.
Right. I like the idea of the review at 6 months with the potential for a raise. Essentially, you're seeing how someone is gonna work out over the 6 months. And then, but assuming everyone stays, then you just come back around to everyone at the same time when the budget's going through.
Yeah, then there needs to be, maybe like a bell curve, scenario where, I mean, we're only talking 3 employees, right? Is what you're saying,
And
right?
Steve,
Just 4.
But yeah, so we've got the 2 admin assistants, we
and
have the zoning
fire,
administrator,
we'll
fire
have
chief.
full-time
Yeah, we'll have
fire,
Yeah.
3.
full-time fire and chief is full-time.
New hires will get a raise this year.
To what?
Right.
New fire, I'm keeping where the my number of members for a whole
Okay.
year.
Yeah, it'll be next year because this is their first.
It's their first year they haven't started, so they haven't gotten their first year yet. They have to complete one year probation before they think about getting a raise.
Gotcha, okay.
I think what he's getting at is, and I'm just thinking of when I worked for the state of Utah, is there some sort of a plan to where they know that in, say, 5 years, they're gonna be at this amount, or is there any scale or anything like that?
He's talking, he didn't get a raise for years.
10 years before
Well,
they get a
I
raise.
know,
We don't.
and the
There's
state,
nothing,
the state of
there's
Utah,
nothing, it's each board's discretion.
right, and the state of Utah was the same way. There was a number of years when times were tough, where we just didn't get a raise. And so, yeah, I understand that.
Yeah, I think the county goes by the governmental, you
Cola,
know, what is it?
they like cola, cost of living.
But they have.
But when they build their contract, they build it on escalate.
They have job categories and description
Grades, they're grades.
steps.
They
have
do the grades.
Yeah, they have, so they have that.
Your first year, your grade, your first 3 years are 1 through 5 steps when you get your raise, sorry, your evaluation, yeah, chuckle. And then the next pay grade is this block of money based on you get 4% over that. In that block, you could get up to a 4% increase, either gradual or in time, but it's not hard, it's just.
And your grade you'd get a lump sum for cost of living
Correct.
for the prior year, whatever the percent was, whatever, times whatever you made. And then your hourly rate would go up based on that, and that's what you start out with the next year. So then once you get higher rates.
Well, from a budget perspective, we may be in the weeds a little bit in the minutia of it all, but if you have a set amount of money that you're gonna allocate to raises, you can decide how that's gonna be divvied up. Make maybe not tonight, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so essentially like a certain amount that would go towards raises, but then the individual employees are evaluated to determine which one gets how much.
Yeah, and if you had 7 employees, my suggestion would be 5 of them are gonna be average to you know, doing well at their job. One's probably gonna be exceptional, and one maybe needing improvement kind of thing. And just that is kind of it's one of the ways to kind of evaluate 7 people. With there's always gonna be somebody that you know maybe needs some more coaching or however that goes. I'm not saying they don't get a raise, but you maybe take
Well, like
what they
lower
don't
amount.
get and you add that to the average and to give that to the exceptional. I mean, overall, the 7, the average raise is gonna be the same. You're just kind of creating a little bit of merit in here, from, instead of just the way the government likes to do it. It's cost of living, stamp, you know.
Everyone does like to do it that way. Yeah,
And it's
so
easy,
you
but
can walk your hands.
And you're not tied to any opinion. Nobody has an opinion about your work.
Right,
And I know kind of new to this game and that's
Well, then the
it's kind of
the high salaries just climb away.
They do climb away. They're gone. I mean, my 4% is, huh?
It's good view, it's good view.
Cause I can, and you know, and then when you consider how much is being paid out for pensions and health insurance,
And then you-
like those
Yeah,
are
and
bonuses,
and
man.
that's the story you need to tell our employees too. It's called total benefit or total
Yeah.
compensation package.
It's
We
like,
constantly need to remind the employees that work here, they
yeah,
just don't work here for the hourly rate or some salary in its
Because
case.
our benefits are good.
The benefits,
Benefits are
you need to add that all up at least once a year and say, this is your total compensation package. Your chief, I'll encourage you to do that with the firefighters too, that
Already done, sir.
yeah, I figured that. You're good. But you know, that's just another, you know, we need to, as an employer, we need to promote ourselves to, you know, to only have 4 people out of 3 positions. I'm a little shocked at that for interviews. I was like, what? We're only interviewing 4 people, right? Next week, or in a couple of weeks for 3 positions? Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
So that's,
For
that's all
firefighters.
who applied for, I believe.
Firefighters, for our firefighters.
About 4. We got so much money. No, they were rude. I can't pay it. Can't. I mean, I can't pay them what they deserve. I mean, I can pay it. That I have numbers I can deal with. Trace and I went as close as we could, and that's still, guys go, I can't take the pay cut. Okay.
wow.
Better than we got now. I'm good.
All right, moving on.
I'm good.
So, under clerk, then we have pension, obviously adjust accordingly, operating postage and supplies at the benchmark of 1,500. Miscellaneous in education, clerk and treasurer end up spending the most money on miscellaneous in education because there's certain certifications that they can get of events and stuff that they do. So if you go into other functions, we have
Keep going, Jeff. Keep going.
FICA insurance for 35,000. Other pension administration, our insurance, we pay lots and health insurance, 125,000 there. Liability bonding, 32,000. Workers' comp, depends on what actually happens, $32,000 is benchmarking from the past 5 years. Nothing. Board review. So this, we have these assignment boards and committees, pay them per meeting, which we range between $65 and $85 per meeting right now. I have this set up at $1,800 for their salaries. There's also 3 people that we need on that board, but I'd like to have an alternate. We'll be seeing that next week in the meeting as well, so it depends on if they come. And then they have some education that's required through the state. So I think that recently high, that's increased a lot in recent years on how much they're required to get.
Can you, I'm gonna interrupt you and jump back up to reimbursements, unemployment. So 101, 244, 965. We need to budget probably $3,000 there at least. I'll get those numbers together. But because we are seasonal, not seasonal,
That's right.
they qualify for unemployment and it is a lot.
3,000.
So, yeah, that's like,
I worked it out with all the employees that they were gonna work under 26 weeks and then qualify as seasonal, so not get unemployment. But according to state law, our organization does not count for that. So we don't have that option, even though they all agreed to it, we're on the same page and stuff, it doesn't work. So, yes, good catch there. Treasurer, very similarly, set up slightly different numbers based on, how the past has gone, as the clerk.
Christy needs more in her education because
Because of
Amy
having
is
Amy
new.
go to some stuff.
Yeah, so if you can bump her up to 5,000.
Yeah, you think 5. In assessing, we don't have a land division specialist, we do contract, with county equalization for $94,000 per year. That was, that was a 5-year contract, was signed before I got it, so it was up the year after that. I looked at the
Yeah, increase.
It's a decent amount, and I've seen other municipalities look around to try to fill an assessor position, and not that easy. A lot of career opportunity in that field. And we have to allocate some for plat maps, so 6,300.
It's actually GIS though, right?
For the plat maps.
Yeah. I think that's their
Different
GIS
wording.
service.
It's a different thing.
But that's
I think Van Klugen generates them.
right, but that 6,300 is really GIS services, not plat maps.
Oh, just in general.
The name of the account.
Now, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that would make sense. Next, we have elections. So we have, I put in $20,000 for salary there, increasing it a bit. Do you think that's enough, Tracy, or should we look at going higher?
I'll do a rough estimate and have it updated for next week's meeting.
Yeah. So just, with the 9 days of in-person voting.
Yeah, I
obviously
just wanna get a different,
benchmarking
yeah,
doesn't even work since different system now.
right.
We're gonna have somebody here every day doing that then?
The 9 days early voting,
3 people.
there'll be four people per, minimum of 3, but probably 4, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans for those 9 days.
Will that be over there too, or it's just in here, right?
That one's gonna be just here,
For all 3 precincts?
yes.
For 2?
Yep.
And then Lakewood closed?
All 3, early voting is all one here.
Nice
So there's nothing there.
Nice postcard, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Operating postage supplies are benchmarked at 15 grand. Do you wanna look at that, Tracy, or do you think it's in a decent range?
I can look at all of these and make sure, cause like maybe we wanna do more booths.
Well, I wrote that down here so I wouldn't forget. I know it's been being discussed, but nothing's been determined on it. So,
Right.
cause basically our plastic/metal booths are great. And so it was discussed maybe replacing them all, maybe not replacing them, working with what we got, maybe replacing a few a year.
And I heard that the Heights has some
Okay,
extras, they're dirty and nasty, but I think they're free, so. Yeah,
Does
it
anyone-
didn't
does
look like
anyone
they
have a
would have
strong-
it crossed.
All voting
They,
booths?
yeah, they had 4 legs, but they didn't like cross in that weird configuration.
I mean, I have no problem with spending some money on some decent, workable voting booths. I mean, it's one of the main functions of a township, really.
True.
Part of the administration, but never mind. I mean, look at what you need. I think Tracy, does anyone have an issue if Tracy is like, I do need boost, I don't need boost, whatever.
We only have 21 right now, I haven't gone through them all, but I know there's at least 5 that need repair.
5 that need repair, and then I'd wanna
Probably
add
a
at
couple
least
that need to
another
be tossed.
5
Right.
to add to our grouping. Cause I think that's one of our problems with lines is not enough places for people to vote. And that's the thing, you want to keep everybody moving. In August, November, you've got long ballots, so it takes time. And so, yeah, I will buy those.
Next, we have building and grounds, and a couple question marks in here because of some of the stuff we've been over. So I have supervisor wages right now, Nate's on salary, switching more to guys at 42. This is the idea of the 2 grand, but obviously discussing, we're gonna hit wages and whatnot a few times in here. Do we want, like at the meeting next week, do we want to look at some sort of bell curve system for the employees we would be considering and doing something like that? Like a certain amount for raises, distributed over a bell curve. Yeah, I can
Not for a vote or discussion.
discussion at the next meeting. Because then, so if we have the discussion of like the bell curve raises in next week's meeting, next 2 regular meetings, well, any budget discussion that needs to occur, obviously, there's a lot of stuff to adjust. So, but we can have that discussion there, and then before we actually approve the final budget, we can be more solidified on it.
What's bell curve mean?
It's a shape like this, so
I know how a graded scale works.
it's a distribution curve. So it's grading on a curve. Certain people are gonna be on the high end, certain people are gonna be on the low end, most people are gonna be in the middle.
Oh,
Other wages, we have at $60,000, and this just fluctuates with how much we're having these guys work over the year. We have 2 that are planning on coming back, pretty certain on that. Potentiality, because one wants to drop down and not do as many hours at least, so maybe we'll hire another one at some point, but we can wait for the weather to really start turning on that. But it does end up being weather dependent.
You're gonna pay them $19 an hour for seasonal. I'm gonna have a hard time explaining to the office staff that they are not making that much.
Well, I would explain the health insurance. Do they get health insurance? Oh,
They get health insurance.
The seasonal
Seasonal do
maintenance.
not.
exactly. That's how you explain that. It's pretty simple.
It certainly does end up being a part of
That's
it,
in June.
but certainly with
That's
all the stuff being public, there's certainly a decent amount of jealousy and conflicts.
We can put them behind the mower and change their mind.
Totally.
Just,
Yeah.
it's, yeah.
It's,
Sometimes those
They're-
conversations are.
We have a hard time filling and keeping those positions filled. So
I'm up for you this summer.
Oh.
I'm free every morning.
I've offered it multiple times. Anybody who has an issue with what I do or how much, first time I tried to get a raise.
Let's just see,
If
that's
there's
not
any issues, I work with me for a day, and I offered it to everybody on the board, only one person took me up on that.
That's a huge bonus. And they need to see that. They need to see they get pension too, right?
There you go.
So that's, you know,
There's some sincerity to that. Actually, give something
that's a
to do.
lot, that's a lot.
And one's training for his 3rd year, the other one's training for his 2nd year, so
That's,
they're consistent,
that's,
and they should be rewarded.
yeah, they
It's
should.
easier on you.
and then pension obviously fluctuates just with whatever we decide to do on the raises, operating supplies, which is benchmark at $7,000, transportation fuel, $6,000 benchmark there. Assuming no crazy fluctuations as far as that goes. This is where we get to repair and maintenance and purchase of equipment, or items to discuss with a question mark. So that depends. If we're buying an expensive tractor, we're not buying an expensive tractor, obviously that type of thing fluctuates a lot based on that, like tens of thousands of dollars. So it depends on which way you want to go on those things. Anyone got any strong opinions on like the stuff we discussed at the beginning, the special items, the tractor, that's a big factor.
I'm pro tractor, but it's no blower.
Yep, I am too. What do we have? The
At
tractor,
least
we
the
have the
first year.
the sign, I think a cheaper sign would be the way to go on that. And I think the roads, the cemetery, and with more research.
The roads for the cemetery would come in their own spot, but the sign could come in capital outlay.
Okay.
Alright.
The sign should come out of his budget.
It'd be added
Why
into
not?
No, it won't be.
capital, it'd be.
Well, it's a building and grounds capital outlay.
Right.
Right.
You know, because you have like a maintenance, this is all the building does. So.
You know what?
All right, so go back to the tractor, I'm with, you know, yeah, tractor with no blower.
But this also includes oil changes and all that other stuff. Not necessarily you do.
Right, correct.
You said
You know, so that 30, 35, 40. You know, the tractor is 25 or 26. That's just bad oil changes. You don't know, do we?
I do probably 2 months. So, well, on the main truck. It varies, so I'd probably say 1,000 to 1,500 on oil changes. If I take it somewhere like that's the plan, it's about 100 a pop.
Yeah.
So we're probably talking max 1,000, 1,500. That gives me room to observe the brakes go out or
Well, yeah,
you know, stuff like that.
yeah, it could be somebody.
I guess my thought on the lift is maybe this year we really track
Do some research.
what we're doing and come up with the analysis.
Maybe reconsider it next year.
Right.
Yeah, I'm also okay with just having a specific GL for vehicle maintenance or even just like equipment maintenance, something very specific for that. Because if the tractor media breaks, you know, I'm not fixing that. I can, but it's like one of those things. So it's like any kind of equipment we can just send in. Because I've done brakes on our vehicles before, but if we don't want to be doing that.
It's gonna change that. It's already there, though.
Right.
I'm
just saying make
it-
make it specific.
Well, that's what we had to do with mine.
Yeah.
Say PPE or whatever, we
Right.
gotta add that in.
So you're looking to remove repair and maintenance out of this category, listing just with this purchased equipment?
We're looking to, I mean, that was a weird one anyway.
It's all, that's just a big catch-all there.
So,
Kinda
because then
all
a
my
few
GLs.
lines down and we have regular repair and
So
maintenance.
typically-
So we need to, go ahead.
So looking at mine, following my DLs, which is following, I mean, same ones. Repair and maintenance to vehicles. What's the other one? Yeah, he's working 800, so it's fine. Repair and maintenance is like the chainsaws. It says repair and maintenance of purchase equipment, that's the chainsaw, that's the small,
Oh, yeah,
How many's the word?
small equipment,
Yeah, how many's the word?
non-capital.
Non-capital items, anything under $5,000 goes into that GL. Anything bigger than that, i.e. the 932, which should be vehicles, that she just has to write the word vehicles behind it, and that becomes anything of the big vehicles. So those two have to stay, we really can't throw 875 out. 875 is to purchase any new equipment or anything under $5,000. The tractor and that crap has to go under his capital outlay.
The big stuff.
The big stuff, anything over 5,000, you cap it, anything that we,
So 970? Or you say 932?
his 875 stays, that stays as all his little things, the buying oil for the chainsaws, the gloves he has to buy, that kind of stuff. The 932 is vehicle maintenance, that would be his maintenance budget to get the oil change, brakes done, tires done, yada, yada, yada. The 970 is where everything else has to go if it's over 5,000, because that's a capital expenditure.
We're pretty.
Budget 101, to come at me anytime.
Pretty good for 7,000 on repair and maintenance.
I've been putting a lot of that oil stuff under operating supplies.
Right, and you should, we found that out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Alright,
You're not sitting down
Yeah.
where it's easier to put stuff.
okay.
That's the problem with general law budgets, with general law GLs. If you catch all it, we actually spend it. Like miscellaneous should get rid of it. And but if you go charter law, then or zero line, you have to then say, I need 2 cases of oil, and we don't do that. But you can create the sub GLs in here, we can create those. G goes in, it's a new G, and it just words it as long as it fits under that. So, but we can, yours are all good, really, except for, I think you need that vehicle one. And you've gotta know what comes in, like if you're gonna buy the tractor or that sign, that comes out of your capital outlay, not out of
Your budgeted for operating supplies.
your supply. You don't have to use that, because then that's where you gotta go, hey, can we switch it?
75 is going away.
No,
No,
it will
it's
never
gonna
go away.
stay. So we,
Just for small equipment.
small equipment.
Chainsaw,
Oh, yeah.
oil,
Alright. Small
Yeah.
things.
that's where 875 is.
Alright,
The 932 will be his vehicle maintenance.
alright.
That would be oil changes on the vehicles,
So how
brakes,
much
tires.
do you want, Nate, in the small equipment line?
Small equipment?
Yeah.
The repair and maintenance for small equipment where you're gonna start putting your oil and your stuff for your.
Could I come back to you on that? Maybe
Yeah.
try to.
Yeah, you can look at it.
I don't want to just throw you a number.
Yeah, we'll have this, this document the next 2 meetings for discussion as well. So utilities are just benchmarked, obviously switching some of the stuff around, this would probably have to go in a different spot, but I did want to bring it up. So a couple of years ago, we were here at that time, we had the electrical, we found out here is one, not fully legal in the back room. And 2, it was only put in a few years ago too. But it is not set up correctly to run the pump here if the irrigation is gonna be run. And so I brought it to the board at the time didn't wanna do anything with it, so I left it, we just turned off the irrigation around this building. So
As you can tell.
Yeah, I think we should.
do we want to do anything with it? At that time, it was a couple $1,000s, because they would have to drill through the brick wall, because there's not enough room in the mechanical room. You have to drill through it and put it on the outside of the building.
I would like to see it done. The grass looks so bad this year.
So we're gonna get a new sign out
On
there,
this side, right?
you know, like, oh, look at our new sign on our dead
Yeah,
yard.
look at our grass.
I agree.
It just looked bad.
The fire department's irrigation system works, so I hope it wasn't bad over there.
It is like that building.
Yeah, I can take that off for you.
In that building, it's like, rough.
She's barkeeper spraying it coming.
We get
That's
paid,
the best.
what we do, pay,
Not on concrete.
we pay $9
No, not.
We paid so, there
I
was so
said, I
much.
do, I wash all my fence line with that.
Yeah, barkeeper
Twice a year.
That stuff's awesome. Oh, yeah, it works great.
Legislative, professional and audit services at $50,000, fluctuates from year to year. That seems to be decently mid-range unless something were to go really sideways.
I think utility went up too.
Okay.
Remember that went up
Yeah.
Wasn't hugely significant though, was it?
I don't think so.
like 900.
Okay.
It's like a couple $100, I think it was $775 before.
Our fluctuations on that line are too much depending on whatever we have going on. To calculate in the 900 in detail. Printing and publishing, along with memberships, fees and dues, benchmarked.
Did you skip a couple in maintenance or buildings and ground? Like the.
Well, we kind of covered all those bottom ones together.
Education. Why is it 0?
Oh, we skipped education.
Just get the education.
Yeah, education and capital outlay.
Oh, miscellaneous and or education and
Yeah.
capital outlay. Right, so the miscellaneous or education, I guess, do you want?
Just a little bit, I mean, just have it
Oh,
came in
yeah.
handy when I wanted to do like that leadership
Don't we have an
training.
education line on Parks and Rec as well?
Did you wanna go to a cemetery thing, that had?
That is true.
She went?
told me she wanted me to go to that next
That
time.
next
I don't know
That
when
would
that
be,
is.
that's in August and that could come out of the cemetery budget.
Okay.
She was increasing that.
But I think there should be something in.
There is some fertilizing training that I'd like to get done, or if the grass doesn't look good, instead of just throwing water on it, I can actually try to do it right. So there, you know, it's just like some seminar stuff online.
We can look at putting something in education. I believe there's a Parks and Rec.
Okay.
So we'll have to look at it.
That's the only reason that brought us back, because I was like, because I wanted a little bit in there, because it came in handy this year.
Well, the capital outlay then was mostly this front sign and
Yeah.
tractor.
Yeah.
Right?
That one I figured we were, you know, items to discuss.
So I know we've had the legislative stuff there. Next, we have public safety. At one time, there was a crossing guard. We eliminated that. Lake weed spraying, because the general fund distributes some money to all of the lakes, including Fox Lake in the village. Private maintenance was a mess in the past. Utilities here, we have at 32,000, and we'll come across where we have the streetlight funds, which are all zeroed out. About 2/3 of those, I believe it was, had special assessments that had gone, that hadn't been properly renewed. We had 1/3 that were still in existence, so a couple of years ago, I believe now, we rolled that up into public safety for the streetlights.
Is that something we're gonna look at township wide? I mean, I think we can absorb it now, but it could be on the back of our minds.
Roll it back out into a special assessment, you mean? We could, I mean, I haven't particularly considered it, but it certainly could be put back into a special assessment.
There's some of them, I know,
Christie
I
loves
know,
those.
but
That's sarcasm, she doesn't like it.
some of them are private neighborhoods, so that's where it gets tricky.
It does, I mean, it's a weird thing, and, you know, really, if the special assessments, if some of them hadn't expired and they hadn't been so messy, then I think it would have made sense to just continue them.
It's not that I don't like special assessments, when I came in, it was a total mess.
Well, then I
And to
don't, I don't like special assessments.
And I'm
It's
going
a mess.
And when people try to combination and split and you have these assessments and I think they go away,
Everything with them is difficult.
yeah, it's a mess.
It'd be really weird to not dislike. Repairs and maintenance on signage. I just put $2,000 in here. We have bought a decent amount of signage along with posts last year for doing street signs and that type of thing. Do you think anything different on this, Nate?
I'm
Or
gonna get an order in soon though.
Okay.
It's just something on a random thing that I have a list already, just gotta
Yeah.
send it.
we had an app made by Van Bruggen at the county so Nate can keep track of the how the signs are doing, the different road signs. In an attempt over, probably the next couple of years to work on getting it just on a nice rotation, so it's being kept up with, because it's been really hodgepodge over the, I'm not sure how long, the last couple of decades probably.
There's a lot of intersections in this township,
Yes.
especially when you get to put every single one of them in and take pictures of every sign. Holy cow.
So you get, what you do is tell your son, you know, as he's aging, yeah, I changed that sign.
Yeah. right.
Yeah, that's fine, I changed it.
I'll be like, you're never alone in this township.
Next, we have fire expenditures, so these are in the general fund instead of the fire fund, to essentially the budget. Chief right now is at a salary of $70,000, within 72, but we'll talk about that at the next board meeting on how we'll do raises. Pension will obviously just fluctuate directly with that. The insurance for health is just benchmarked. Next, we have roads and drainage ditches, so roads are different this year. Because we've allocated so much money from ARPA towards our money for roads, contracted with them, to get that 1% bonus. So that's largely taken care of this year, so I've written these little notes in here, we have $410,000 approximately. In ARPA funds, and that's going towards road work, we have $424,000 contracted. The road commission thinks, because of us making that contract, we're Ken said we're the number one priority in the county this year for that stuff. He thinks he might be able to do all of the work this year. I have hesitations on whether they'll actually be able to get all of that done in 1 year, but if they are, I mean, because you essentially double that number. But if they are, then that would be our overall expense. So we need a little bit more money. We will be earning some funds on the interest on that, depending on exactly when they do all that work and we have to pay it. But on the next line, the drainage ditch cleaning and maintenance, I put $10,000 in there because there's always a lot more that could have been done here, and I've pushed on it the last couple of years. The 1 year I got them to do quite a bit, but something's going to come up where there's some messed up ditch somewhere, so we should keep something in there. That's why the numbers are so low, because we have the contracted amount for ARPA, so we'll come across that. Next, we have Public Works, and this gets into contracted services for transfer station. You can see $52,000, which is over the amount that we expect to bring in there just by itself, which is why I think it's reasonable to talk about the fees. And I can look at those closer and draw it up essentially and talk about what we want to raise it to. There'll probably be a decent amount of kickback, and some people upset over that, even with a minor change, but it's just reasonable.
Oh yeah, some of the people I've already talked to, like, they're like, these prices are ridiculous. I'm like, well, they're probably gonna go up.
And
Yeah,
then
straights
and then we start dumping in the woods.
The salaries
And
are
then I have to
already.
pick it up anyway.
You have to remember the salaries.
Yeah, if you actually include the salary, it's way upside down. Yes. So it is very much a service provided by the township out there. Workers in the business the way it's set up now. The junk cleanup is a different thing. So Steve asked me to increase this to $20,000. This is when we have to do some sort of enforcement action on pulling junk cars for blight up someone's yard, something like that. We have some houses that really should be condemned that were in the talks with Troy, the building inspector, with our lawyers. Some of them are held up. We have like a house up by the village that is essentially ripped in half. It looks like something out of a tornado movie, but it's in probate court in Pennsylvania. So we're just talking about Church Street,
Okay.
318 Church Street, I think. So, yeah, it's a rough shape. So we could have several things come through at the same time in the next fiscal year of taking that stuff out. Christy's been talking with the county on putting that type of thing on the tax roll, or putting a lien on it. And there's difficulties there.
Either way, we're screwed. We're stuck with a bill.
But we
Either
should,
way.
we should try. We should put it on the tax bill.
And try to get it. But if they go into foreclosure, then we don't get it. So, but if they pay the bill, it goes delinquent to the county, so we have this one. A $4,000 bill that's gonna go on 2024's winter bill for taking cars off their property. I'll put it on 2024's winter. If they don't pay it, then it'll go into foreclosure and we're screwed.
If
Right,
they,
and it'll come back.
if they don't pay it, we get reimbursed from the county. When it goes to foreclosure, if the person buying it doesn't pay, there's a minimum bid. If it doesn't go in the minimum bid, which includes those fees, then it goes in the next round, which is a free for all, and I think they try and sell them like big quant, like one place buys
Get
them all.
charged back.
Then we would get a charge back because they didn't make enough to cover the costs, so we'd have to
It's
pay back
it's a
the
gamble
costs.
either way.
But if somebody buys it for the minimum bid, then we remain.
Yeah, the last few years, I think we marked either 15 grand or 10K in there, and usually haven't spent very much of it. But if we have some trailers, we've even had one that was going back on taxes and the trailer was in rough shape, and Troy and I talked about it, and we let the county take it back, and the county ended up doing their thing with it instead to save our funds, basically.
Right.
Miscellaneous, I have this as a composting license. So last year we got inspected by the state for the transfer station. They liked our stuff overall, thought we ran a nice clean operation, other than the leaf and grass pile. which they said is an illegal composting site and has been for how many decades, that's been going. Now, we already had worked with McCormick and contracted with them to take a bunch of the compost that was compost already out of there so that we could generate enough room, because the trucks for picking up bins from R&M were running out of room. That's why I ended up doing it. And so we were already in the middle of that when the guy came out for the inspection. And we will not be able to get it low enough to fall below the yardage where a transfer station can not have a license. We'll probably need something like a medium license for composting. And so we'll be looking at that this year and what all of the requirements will actually be. We're filing with the state, but also just how the stuff will have to be arranged. So, which can make another case for the larger tractor. It's nice having McCormick stuff. They got their big loaders, which can move a lot of stuff. Oh, you have to pay them if we want to go push around a huge leaf pile and whatnot too. So. Next, we have capital outlay. This was that discussion about the new building out of the transfer station. What are people thinking about the building out of the transfer station?
Needs it.
Yeah. And you didn't even get in there before, you got in there after I ozoned it.
I was.
Ozoned it. When I came in, it smelled like a chicken coop and I ozoned it.
No, it's
getting there again.
It was way worse.
Is there gonna be heat in it? There be some form of heat?
I don't think there'll be inbuilt heat. I think it'll still be space
I mean,
heat.
propane.
That's what we have now, but we go
Electric
through a lot
and
of, we go
propane.
through a lot of propane.
But it should be like a heat.
It'd be better if it was just a newer building in general, for sure.
Next, for senior services, contracted services, this just goes with that revenue for the senior millage. Something zero, if it needs to be adjusted, and it does come through, it can just be adjusted together. Planning commission, we have our normal salary, operating postage doesn't end up being huge. For those types of positions that are by meeting, I think it's reasonable to give some sort of small raise, a few dollars per meeting to go up. They range between $65 and $85, depending on if you're chair or anything like that. This doesn't make sense to give a small increase to the different one-off meetings. Not a huge job. I mean, people aren't largely doing that for the money because you're not making a ton. They're doing it for like a public service type of thing, which is appreciated, but should try to keep up with some of the inflation at least. Not a huge amount of interest in education, although I've offered it, so I dropped it down to 500 here. But if anyone wanted it, I would approve any education stuff. Basically, it's good to have knowledgeable people in the spots. Zoning and ordinance, Steve, we have on salary, obviously that's the increased discussion. The zoning for the village, this is because we have a contract with the Village of Lakewood Club. Pension obviously fluctuate based on what he's actually making. Ordinance enforcer is Clay coming in and doing ordinance enforcement stuff on Tuesday. This ends up being a little bit of a raise that I calculated in there. It's a decently paid position for what it is. It's also nice having Clay as a detective that can deal with those people. Miscellaneous and education, I put in $1,000. Steve wants to do it. He does a bunch of free stuff, and I did a few certifications once he got here, and he has a degree in the field. Zoning Board of Appeals, very similar, meets probably 1/3 as often as the Planning Commission, or a little bit less, so $1,800 in salary in there. Yeah, it's been quite a while since the zoning board. Next, we have recreation and parks. The $4,500 is the first line on there is for sports and shorts. I included that somewhere in the discussion for the budget over the last couple of meetings. That is an increased amount program that runs at Wood Lake. Been being commonly done here, so I think it makes sense to continue. If it was a new thing, I think it'd be more debatable. The parks construction at Beagle Field on Tyler makes sense. Probably do the dugouts are in rough shape, the basketball court is in rough shape, the building there is just being used as storage, bricked up a number of years ago. So, and then the boat launches, I tried to put in to do the boat launch at Catawba. Goose Egg Lake last year, essentially it's an experiment to see if we do the other little ones, not the Twin Lake one, that's owned by the county. But the other little ones, I couldn't get it approved, I got it denied, resubmitted, and they never got back to me. My interaction with Eagle has gone down every year I've been in office, or my positive interaction with them. I think for various reasons, I subpoenaed one guy and whatnot. And so we can try to have Nate, I think, apply for that this year and probably get professional drawings done instead of my horrible drawings. And give that a go. And if it goes, that would be a couple $1,000s. I figure a few $1,000s for dugouts, a few $1,000s for the basketball court. That building could take as much or as little money as we wanted. Any thoughts on that, Nate?
The dugouts 100% have to be done. That's the only little bit of revenue we get out of that park. And so the roofs, it's a asphalt roof with tin on top, and it's just, they did it incorrectly and it's rotting from underneath all the wood structure. So those 100% need to be done. The basketball courts, there's just too big of gaps in there where there's a lot of chance for tripping. And we want to have people use it, we definitely need to resurface them. And then the building, Heather has really high hopes for that building. It's got 2 bathrooms that used to be in it, had an old concession stand style. It could be redone, but like Jeff said, it could cost a lot, but at the same time, we didn't get the grant, or
The Spark grant.
we didn't get the Spark grant, so we could try to maybe meet in the middle somehow and put some money into that to improve the bathroom, because like I said, the team that rents out or uses our baseball field, they don't use our bulk toilet because of how gross it is. Like I said, with the nice.
It'd be kind of nice to get those toilets going, and rip the
Right.
vault toilet out.
There, and it would, but here's the thing, all the plumbing is blown out. I went in there and I looked at it, it's all cracked, the ceiling's falling apart because they ran just CPVC above the ceiling, plumbing. It needs, all the electrical needs to be redone.
Yes,
There's no, everything's old style, like the well is outside that runs through just a whole brick, and it would need a lot.
How big is that building? Is it
I would say
like
probably
a commercial
about
building?
1,000 square feet, maybe a little less. Yeah.
It's only.
It's tough to say though, because half the lights work, so I can't really see that well. in
Take the
there.
outside square footage,
Yeah.
you're only 20 by 35, if that,
Yeah,
40 maybe.
Yeah.
I think you're pushing 40.
it's tough to tell, but yeah, it's probably between 800 and 1,000, I would say.
You know, it'd be really cool if they're using it for sports and whatnot there, for the concession stand, like they could be selling hot dogs.
Problem is, we thought about that, there's a lot that goes into that.
We have to get, yeah.
You'd have to have employees, first of all, that do
I
that.
contacted the county health
You'd have
department.
You have to
post some
food,
stuff.
Oh, gee.
you know, everything that cooks food, and then, you know, it would be a huge endeavor. It's definitely doable, but that would have to be a huge decision made by you guys. Cause that's a lot, that would be personnel hiring, that would be a lot.
Right, I was gonna say, we don't have enough people.
I mean, I think dugouts and basketball courts, probably reasonable to everyone. The building, do we wanna look at getting these more extensive quotes? If we're not gonna do it, pointless.
What's
To
it
get
used
them.
for now, storage?
Yeah, there's just some stuff in there, storage that we never even
Yeah, right on,
access.
pretty close to top.
It's so I'm closer to it.
It's essentially.
Because it's,
That's a pavilion. Yeah, the building
Yeah.
has that, it's actually right, yeah.
We already have a covered spot there.
We have a pavilion.
Yeah.
The pavilion's not in great shape either.
Not in terrible shape though, it's really not. It's not in terrible shape. It needs a new little sheet of fascia. It's, you know, it's.
Well,
not-
I think it has electrical issues out there too.
That is true. We don't have water actually out there too, which is something I want to look at. There's no spigot. That makes it a pain when I just want to like maybe power wash the bleachers and redo the bleachers. I can't. So that might be something to add in there also.
There's a well out there though.
There is, because we have irrigation, but there's no spigot, there's no access to water.
All right. Any strong thoughts on any of that? So, and I put a question mark for that, but I put a question mark just for equipment and repairs too, going with projects to a certain extent. So like Christy mentioned, like if that building is gonna be torn down, we either have to hire that out or rent stuff.
Playground equipment also, yeah. We have a little upgrade to the playground. There's just some cracks and stuff. So we could either just get a new slide added onto the whole jungle gym. We wouldn't need a whole jungle gym.
It will cost more than you think.
Oh, yeah.
That's all playground stuff.
It does. I've been getting a bunch of flyers.
I have a lot more.
We're talking.
We got one off of Amazon when we put one out at Catawba because I just wasn't willing to spend like $86,000.
That's what took me a week to put together with 4 guys.
It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. Utilities just benchmarked, miscellaneous, we just benchmarked as well, year, well, it goes up and down from year to year, so stuff that we don't have where else to put it. Capital outlay, which is debatable with, whether parts construction and capital outlay both need to exist, but. And that brings us to the end of Fund 101 for the general funds and gets us into the fire funds. So the one I've included here on the grid sheet is significant changes will have to be made for it because we have major personnel changes going. But the sheet that I had right at the beginning, this is Chief's sheet, stuff that is changing. So Chief, if you want to dive in that.
Very simple. You can see where I wrote down what I do. This makes it go much faster. Questions?
I just have like an ignorant question. Property tax operating?
So I have 2 millage. I have an operating millage and I have 3 millages. So I have an operating millage, an equipment millage, and the increased staffing.
I just saw property tax, but that makes sense because part of us.
They're broken.
Right.
My budget is a lot worse than yours. I can only spend certain things on a certain budget. I can't take, say I got 536,000 to spend where I want. I have to break it down like this.
I got it.
Okay.
Any questions on the 5 requests that I have? I will change a couple of things just so you know, time frames just depends on quickly, but the 234, 216 is incorrect. Like I said, that below overtime is not counted. I could put in 250,000 into that account. That does count all of the benefits and wages, but again, we don't know what overtime is gonna be. We don't know what it's gonna be right now. So there's significantly less money taken out so that I can keep assetting it to the right spot. But we built the program to not allow to hit the millage increase money. So the millage increase that we're getting up to 257,506, we built the product to stay below that. This is kind of a slush fund, but I still don't know what's gonna happen. We don't know the first year we've never done it, so we have to figure it out. But everything else pretty much gonna stay the same except for those 7 changes that I made. There is one slight change in the capital outlay. I don't have a hard number on that yet. I'm waiting for Dion Morris to come back to finish the repairs on the building, the final stuff. But we did have a little issue with our trailer, more of a safety issue. I'm not gonna spend money to have somebody get hurt on something to make us look cool. We're gonna move some things around and we're probably I'm gonna ask for an additional 10,000 in, put in the capital outlay, but I wanna put an extra 10,000 in the capital outlay. It'll be significantly less, but I wanna put the 10 to be safe, for a new trailer for our range of motorcycle. It's not safe removing that motorcycle. We did something just to see what would happen. And it went bad rather quickly. So everything else was taken care of. So other than that, those are the only 5 changes I have in my budget. If any questions, that's all I have.
It's all.
The only thing we will do is change GLs. We will add the 715 number. I'm not really sure where Jeff came up with that number for the 18,000 for the pension. I think it's what he came up with the all 3 based on what we did in our FTs, figuring it out, which is about right. But we're gonna have to create a health insurance GL, which will end up being like a 718 GL we'll have to create for those guys. We'll break it down Trace and I get that, we all figure it out, but we'll get out the FICA and everything, all be added in. We'll create those couple extra GLs, other than that, that's all it is.
If you get that trailer, would I have to adjust that on my budget now too? Because if I wanted your trailer, like.
That's right, we're trading it. Okay, wait here, we haven't gotten the numbers back yet. If it may save us by trading it, it's an operation thing, but I will, We have the Ranger and the Rokon on a trailer. It's one sideways, one's forward. The bike weighs 253 pounds, which isn't a big deal. When law enforcement had to fulfill some things for us, for you guys, they powered a Ranger. At the point I went to take the Rokon off the bike, and it had been snowing. The bike pretty much took me out of the game for a minute. And I'm a strong guy. It could have hurt me. I'm not gonna hurt my staff. I'm just not doing it. So I'm gonna revamp the trailer, and we figured worst case is 10,000. I may trade that trailer in if we don't revamp it and they build us a new one. Or Nate had said, hey, I'd like it, but we'll do like we did in years past. We'll take the Blue Book value, what they were to give it to maintenance, take it out of their budget, and put it in my budget. I don't care either way. I just know that that's gonna happen because I'm not gonna have something here. It's just not worth it. So I don't know what that number's gonna be. We're guessing significantly lower than that, but I probably couldn't get underneath the $5,000 SGF fund. So it'll end up being a capital outlay expenditure, but I don't know what it's gonna be yet. But that 80,000 should be close to finishing the building, but it's gonna fluctuate. But as you see, I took 18,000 out right off the top, that I can put somewhere else. So pretty easy, not very hard. I'm pretty.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good, buddy. It's just, I don't know, we don't know what's gonna happen yet. We don't know. We're hoping, there were guys were hoping today to hear from bank camps and had heard from that. So I have a problem either way. I just don't want you to have to spend money if it comes out ridiculous what they're gonna give us.
Oh, right.
You know, I don't want you to go, oh, that's dumb, you know, and then think you over. So either way, we'll get it figured out. That can be down the road, but just know that's the only thing that's gonna be in there capital outlay wise. Is except for the additional building repair, which is the carpet, soffit, and fascia, and siding. But more stuff that's gonna be under stuff, but right around 75,000. So we'll see. It comes and talks to me next week. Which won't be till after the board meeting, so it's gonna be close when I go to adjust it.
So, but good for the March board
Yeah,
meeting.
before the March board.
Definitely good before the annual.
Yeah.
So, yeah, multiple channels to sort all the stuff out anyway. So, cemetery fund, that's gonna be the next fund. It will make multiple adjustments there. I just essentially benchmarked the stuff and went conservative with everything. Heather had looked through it, and she basically wants to increase everything, including the revenues and the expenses. We're looking at, in the next meeting, next week, doing that cemetery report. It's actually included in there. I have it all written down here, the changes she wants. But we do need to look at if doing some of these capital outlays in the cemetery, we are eating into, I have included current fund balance on here is just over 35K. And so that can get eaten up decently fast. Now, in this budget year, we've done a transfer in from general fund. And that started with Lori. Was Lori in office the last budget that we did? What? I think the last budget that we did. No, Lori was in. You were there.
Year before that.
Yeah, did you think the $2,500? I remember having a conversation, I don't remember who it was. But we need to probably start moving a little bit of money from the general fund to the cemetery fund to keep it going at a decent rate. We had put in $2,500 for this year.
And I don't know if those transfers actually happened.
I don't think that $2,500 has. So
Yeah,
we could still
I
get
just-
done this budget
yeah,
year,
absolutely.
right before the end. I mean, what do you guys think with continuing that? It's essentially the cemeteries have a hard time making enough money to support themselves. They support their own operations. They have a hard time making enough money to support any capital outlays. So if the general fund starts dripping money in there, $2,500 a year, something like that, At some point in the future, it may need to be a larger lump sum if something major were to be done. But I think that could keep it going for quite a while, really. And hopefully avoid that need in the future for a big lump sum for the general fund to cover instead of running into a disaster.
The irrigation disaster.
Yeah, we have,
Yeah,
we
the
have some broken
irrigation.
irrigation pipe.
Yeah, I mean, we could look at, for cemeteries, they have, columbariums, which are expensive, but, it's for cremains, so we might sell those maybe a little more.
Correct, yeah, you can sell those for a little more. Yeah. All right, any questions on cemetery fund, anything like that? All right, now we get into a bunch of minor funds, which anyone feel free to look this over and just point out the areas, in general that I may have. But I largely just benchmark these, as predictions based off the past, for our water fund. It is approximately good. Then we get into the streetlight fund, that's like I brought it before, obviously, it doesn't need to be included in the final budget and stuff. This was historically its own, special assessment set of districts, or a bunch of special assessment districts for this. Falling off, and we wrapped it up in public safety in the general fund. That brings us to, Fund 249 for the building fund. We have revenue here, $120,000 on building permits, that really just depends on the activity. It seems like building's going to continue here, at least in the county, even if we're to decrease across the country, the county's probably gonna keep cranking along. Zoning ordinance kind of falls into that same thing. It's not wording for it, it's really more of building expenses. And these are the things we're paying out to the building inspector, the electrical, mechanical, plumbing. We have contracts with all of those, evergreen contracts, so either one of the parties with notice can decide to discontinue those, but otherwise it's broken up with certain percentages based on how much work they're actually doing.
I'm not sure I made that much.
Yeah, it's an interesting field, decent field, they make decent out there. Next, we get into the American Rescue Plan, right, the ARPA Act stuff, and this is where we have that approximately just, I believe, $410,000. Assuming interest goes for a while in the year before we end up starting to pay stuff down on the road, and assuming interest goes down, I put $10,000 in there. If the road commission is able to do all of the road projects, we'll spend that total, with interest that actually comes to, and then the ARPA funds will be done.
Up to 1%.
Yeah, they've been an opportunity, caused their own controversy for sure. That gets us down to Central Road paving. There's a special assessment district that we've done, so there's still some money coming in, some people have paid it off. But this is the first year for that. So Michael knows, but he gets billed for it. Right, Chris gets billed it. So this is the first year for it, which is why it doesn't even read in the BSNA system yet as having a fund balance. But essentially, these are the numbers that were planned in the resolutions for paying things, although I calculated the interest and fees on the bonds myself. I think that's correct.
We have a schedule for that. You talking about the payments, bond payments?
They come due twice a year.
Yeah, the bond payments we have a schedule for, but then the percentages for the interest and fees, we just had the percent in there. That also changed over the years. I did the calculations for the first year.
Okay, because we've got it laid out by exactly what we have to pay each time. Perfect.
Miss Linda is same type of thing, we just did that last year, so this is what it looks like 1 year into it, basically. McDonald Road, Fund 346, that was also a road project, a couple of years before I was in, right around 2019, somewhere in there. Maybe just before that, 2019 was it? Okay. And that one was financed internally by the township, so bond wasn't taken out of it, which is somewhat of why that one looks a little different.
When is that one done?
Was it a 10-year or was it a 7-year? Okay. So, but that's why the current fund balance is upside down on that one. Because essentially the funds that were collected on that are owed to the township because the township financed it. Fund 590 is sewer. Sewer finances have been a bit of a mess, but they're in a much better shape now that we've made a bunch of adjustments, like increasing fees, putting revenues. The reason there's a land sale proceeds in there is because we sold off a bunch of land and put $500,000 in there to try to fix the fact that it was headed towards bankruptcy in 2026. So as long as we're increasing it, the user fees by 4% a year should be good. We paid a bunch of money to have a guy do a study on that, and he came back with, I think so, but as long as we increase it 4% a year, I think it should be good moving forward. It'll be close.
Did you hire a meteorologist for?
Yeah, it was that messed up. We sent him a lot of paperwork. So, and he was a highly recommended guy. We pay Muskegon for sewer charges as part of enterprise activities for the portion of sewer that's along River Road. There's an old contract with them. I think I dug through all of it. I think that contract goes back to the 80s. We're losing money on that part, but with the increasing rates, we shouldn't. Trust in agency, planning on a bunch of activity there the last couple of years. Things got weird in there because at first we were running land sales through that. So things got weird. I don't think there should be activity in there. Do either of you? No super planned activity trusting to do that. And then this next enterprise activity with Department 547, it's the thing that isn't used anymore. Brings us around to Brock and the Cat, Fund 805, is on page 16. And so these are contracts that we have with the County Road Commission to maintain private roads. It'd be illegal for the township to spend money to maintain private roads. So we have a contract with them for it, and then we charge people through a special assessment to raise the funds paid for Cat and Brock, which are one, they're connected, and then Johnston, a portion of Johnston. So that's why they're set up like this. We basically just need to determine year to year how much we're going to charge on these, a lot like the late special assessments for weed treatments, which will come up on soon. There has been discussion about combining splitting, but mostly combining properties for special assessments, especially these special assessments that don't end because they're just evergreen or ongoing for maintenance like this. To redo a roll, it looks like Scale said there might be a way around it, but it sounded like a lawyer trying to give me a path to something that might not be fully the way you would want to do things.
I think it just, that parcel drops off and then you have one fewer parcels that you split the money between.
So you recalculate the money for everyone.
Right, it's.
Yeah.
You drop the parcel, but then there's 49 instead of 50 that it gets divided among.
Right, the question is how much of it do we have to go back through to reform the roll? Because we're essentially changing the roll at that point. Special assessment would normally be you have to pay it, so you would just end up getting charged double for combining land. Anyways, the point being, Camp, Brock, and Johnston are a mess. No matter what we do with them, we'll get a ton of complaints. And so, like for sure, right? It doesn't even matter. You can't come up with an option where that's not about that. So.
Those are always private.
We didn't have a special assessment.
Yeah, the county is not going to add any private roads. I mean, even things that really make a lot of sense. Like,
Scott is right next to Cat,
I
right?
was just saying that's the road I grew up on, and we would always look at it
Cat
and be like, oh, that's
I know that's Scott, Cat, I'm like,
Junior,
Scott is,
Scott Junior.
Cat, Cat's not.
right,
Oh, Junior's dead. Junior change and are all dead.
they did it into Scott.
Yep, you can't
Yeah,
pass through.
right, used to be able to,
Used to
back
be
in
able
the
to
day.
back in the day, but now they.
But yeah, Scott is in my opinion, so that's interesting.
and the county is not going to add any roads to their list of official roads, for sure.
Period.
Period.
Even in the business park where the county invested $2 million, they're not going to pick up those roads. That was a whole big political thing, but if they were gonna add anything, it would have been those, and they didn't do that. So unanimous vote against me, all of the road members apologized to me, but voted against me.
History lessons.
Yeah, there's a lot more, but that's the general overview of why Cameron and Johnson are the way they are here. So Johnson is next one, Fund 806, same type of thing. Gypsy moth suppression, I put $3,000 in here.
That's suppression.
It's based off of nothing. All right, so the $3,000 is just completely made up. And so we haven't been doing like spray treatments and stuff like that. It was brought before the board of what we're gonna do with it. We're giving out paste for people to put around their own trees and tape. We have those supplies. We ordered a couple $1,000 of those supplies.
When can we get them?
You can get them now if you want.
They're here.
There's a new textile.
Let's get some.
Yeah.
Let's get some.
Oh, I'm gonna write that down.
We put it on the
sign, one of the two.
I mean, if we cruise through that couple $1,000 of material, buy $3,000 more, there's a lot of it.
There's a
down.
lot of it.
So I had one guy come in and he was complaining about it, and I said, I can get you your stuff, and he said, I'll come back and spray it, get out, I don't wanna get it now, so. It's the only one that I've come close on so far.
Throw away, it's that's another point.
I'll make it. You can start advertising that. We'll probably need some up here too.
Hold on, I'm happy to bring some up here.
Are you put a limit per? That's probably another thing.
We didn't have a specific thing on it, but it seemed like when we discussed it at the time, it was like, come in and get your one jar of paste and one thing of tape, and if you need more, come back. That's kind of the way that discussion went.
I think it's a jar.
That's
It's a good size.
It looks like a can of harness. Yeah, it's not, I was gonna tell you something. I wouldn't suggest it.
I think it's the Jeremy.
Yeah, it's a.
I'm trying to think it. Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm still fine.
Middle Lake weed eradication, right, so we have 4 of these lakes that we have special assessments for. They're set up as evergreen, since I've been in, so we don't have to be continually renewed. We do have to figure out how much we're charging for them per year. Some of these fund balances grew to a decent extent, and it can't be spent on anything other than weed treatments. Because I've had some of the lakes get up to the point where people inquire, well, let's use some of the money to stock fish. We can use for this special assess for weed treatments. We can do it through chemical stuff, we can do it through mechanical stuff. It's all set up chemical right now. We haven't had a petition come through for switching to mechanical, but we've had interest on West Lake, if you can get a petition on that. So some of the lakes, it makes sense to probably just continue to not charge for until we get low enough on them that it makes sense to go back to charging. We don't want to drive it too low, obviously, because we don't want to go upside down in 1 year, so we want a little bit of cushion, but no need to have a gigantic cushion. So, that's enough money to get enough chemicals and stuff to kill it.
Currently.
Yeah, that's the current fund balance on Middle Lake. So, I mean, at the way we're benchmarking per year now, that would get us through several years.
So you're saying we're not gonna do a special assessment for weed?
So we won't have revenue, but we'll have expense, which will come out of the fund balance, which is only for weed control in Middle
That
Lake.
would be another tax. There would be no weed assessment.
Yep.
Removal this year. Sufficient funds. I'm just, it's all
Yeah.
about promotion, right?
Yes,
So
it is.
it's not so much about the tax machine, but the fact that people need to know
There's the
why,
information.
right? Exactly, it's good information.
North Lake weed control, same type of thing. Different numbers, probably makes sense to go back to charging next year, keep like a 1-year cushion in there. Twin Lake weed control, I've included a special assessment on there, I threw $4,000 in, just because Twin Lake can eat up a decent amount of money. And so it probably makes sense to keep about a 1-year buffer in there, just in case something were to go sideways, be unusual. So we don't want to drive that too far down. West Lake weed control is the same type of thing. That brings us to the end.
Did it.
One, two, three.
If you include it, yeah, so, yeah, include everything. So, and you have to remember, like, some of the funds are significantly different, like general fund versus fire fund are managed significantly. Any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns? Alright, I work on making some of the adjustments for the packets that I get out on Wednesday for the meeting next Monday, and then we'll see other adjustments in the March meeting. And then that'll bring us to the annual meeting at the end of March, Saturday, 23rd, 1 p.m. Technically, two meetings, one where they can override essentially the raises to three executive members, and then immediately following that, the regular budget. All right, well, we will call it a day.
I was gonna say, this, being pushed out.
I